Chapter 201, Lu Family's Secret. Although Chen Shang resided in the extreme Dan King courtyard, he was still given some place to reside in here. When he saw a lovely and sweet girl along with a girl with a mature charm in the courtyard, he could not help but be secretly surprised. "Ruro, how come you're here?" Zhu Rong hastily asked. "Elder sister, this seems to be the residence of men, you girls can't just come in here." Yun Xiaodao's complexion turned horrid as he took occasional glances at Zhu Ruro. Yun Suyi replied in a warm and enchanting voice, "Don't worry, I accompanied Ruro to see you." Chen Shang prodded Zhu Rong's waist and asked in a low voice, "What the hell is going on here? What is the relation between your younger sister and Xiaodao?" "Well, I never wanted to recognize little rascal Yun as my brother-in-law. Sigh, I can't do anything anyway, I need to make a confession to you." Zhu Rong, with a helpless look, replied. Meanwhile, Yun Xiaodao also heaved a long sigh. Chen Shang had a sudden urge to laugh, however, he still held himself back. "So they were already booked, then why did you introduce your sister to me?" "Ha ha, if you took a liking to Ruro, then she could not marry little rascal Yun, how do I say this? You are a lot stronger than little rascal Yun." Zhu Rong shamefully replied in a low voice. Chen Shang chuckled, "Xiaodao, your wife is not bad, why would you become dejected and despondent? She is good, but just thinking about calling this pig as my brother-in-law makes me feel sick." Yun Xiaodao said in a dejected voice. "Little rascal Yun, you need to call me brother respectfully." Zhu Rong also felt uncomfortable. "I gave my sister to you, and you cheaply got her. How dare you call me pig? Father can marry your sister as your good fortune." Yun Xiaodao shouted back. "You look like a monkey, don't flatter yourself. My sister married you out of kindness." Zhu Rong also started shouting. Soon, they began to quarrel again. Cough cough. From a distance, Zhu Ruru's light coughs came over. "Xiaodao, what did you promise me?" Her tone was carrying a subtle hint of strictness, making Yun Xiaodao shut up immediately. Chen Shang suddenly discovered that although Zhu Ruro was called Ruro, she was not gentle at all. Every day, he would hear Yun Xiaodao complaining about how fierce and strict his wife was, and thinking of this, Chen Shang once again had wide grin on his face. TLN. Ruro Ru Ru means gentle. Chen Shang shot a palm on Yun Xiaodao's back and said while laughing, "You actually got married, yet you didn't invite me, you're truly lacking a sense of brotherhood. He especially didn't invite you, this idiot actually intends to hide it from you forever, ha ha ha." Zhu Rong started laughing. "Younger brother Chen, your information is out of date, you didn't even knew the wedding between Zhu family and Yun family." Zhu Ruro and Yun Suyi came over, and Chen Shang, for once, intently looked at them. Zhu Ruro looked gentle and sweet, she had a striking contrast over Yun Suyi's mature charm and hot figure. "Elder brother Chen, hello. I often hear Xiaodao mention you, however, he always said you are very busy, that's why he can't take me to see you." Zhu Ruro said with a light smile. Chen Shang laughed as he took out 2 building foundation dans. He gave one to Xiaodao and the other to Zhu Ruro before speaking, "At the time of your wedding, I was indeed preoccupied with something, and I couldn't come. Consider this as your wedding gift." Zhu Rong's eyes suddenly shone as she exclaimed, "Younger brother Chen, you are truly kind." While talking, he extended his hands to grab Zhu Ruru's building foundation dan, however, before he could even take it, his hand was slapped by Yun Xiaodao. Yun Suyi had heard from Yun Xiaodao, elder brother Chen is very generous person, yet she didn't expect him to actually be so generous. In one shot, he took out 2 building foundation dans, and he also had a, "does not matter," look on his face. She remembered at the time of Yun Xiaodao's wedding, the most precious gift they received was a few 100,000 crystal stones. She suddenly understood why Yun Xiaodao would make her think of ways to get married to Chen Shang. Both Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Ruro were very surprised. They knew Chen Shang had only obtained just 3 building foundation dans from the Lu family, and there was no need for him to be so generous. Zhu Rong asked, "When I get married can I also have this gift?" Chen Shang laughed and replied, "Of course. Ha ha, well then, I just have to get married multiple times." Zhu Rong had just finished speaking when he was suddenly kicked by Yun Xiaodao. What made Chen Shang feel even more interested was that, after Shu Weilong entered, he neither spoke nor took a look at Yun Suyi. Meanwhile, from time to time, Yun Suyi would also have strange light in her eyes as she stole glances at Shu Weilong. "We'll take our leave." Yun Suyi grabbed Zhu Ruro and left, and only after they left did the atmosphere tone down a little. Everything turns chaotic when there's a woman in here. Sigh, we even need to be cautious with the words we are speaking. Yuan Xiaodao heaved yet another sigh as he spoke. Zhu Rong laughed evilly and spoke, "Hey, didn't you notice? Little rascal Yun's older sister actually took glances at Squinted Dragon, ha ha ha." Shu Weilong glared at Zhu Rong once before speaking dismissively, "This is my charm, don't just think I'm hated by everyone, I'm also loved by someone." This made Chen Shang and others broke into laughter till they have to hold their bellies. "Humph, don't talk about women anymore, we have to talk about our great plan first." Yuan Xiaodao, when he thought of himself calling Shu Weilong his brother-in-law, he felt uncomfortable once again. He had been married to Zhu Ruro for so long, yet he had never called Zhu Rong as his own brother-in-law. Although he didn't call him as such, there was still a shadow in his heart. "Little rascal Yun, before I had promised you to help keep your secret from younger brother Chen, but now that younger brother Chen himself came to know about it, I don't have to help you keep your secret anymore." Zhu Rong proudly smiled and spoke. Chen Shang realized that Yuan Xiaodao, in order to make Zhu Rong and Shu Weilong guard his secret, had to pay a hefty price. "Isn't that going too far? Your wife is not a bit rude and unreasonable, moreover, she is Zhu Lao's younger sister." Chen Shang laughed and said, "Exactly because she is Zhu Lao's younger sister that I'm feeling unwell." Yuan Xiaodao shut the door, and the four of them once again began to talk about building their own force. At this point, Zhu Rong also turned serious. "I looked into the Lu family and discovered some astonishing things. I think the extreme martial sect should also know it, however, there was nothing in it for them. Lu family's most powerful is not Lu Shang, but a guy who had entered a devil path sect. Because this was an ignominious matter to the Lu family, they declared that their most powerful person was Lu Shang. However, now that Lu Shang has been killed by younger brother Chen." Chen Shang frowned and said, "Last time during my duel against Lu Zhengnan had used a very evil martial technique. Was it taught by this devil path disciple of the Lu family? It is possible that the Lu family and that devil path disciple still have dealings, however, this does not constitute a threat to the extreme martial sect. Also, the extreme martial sect don't have any evidence yet to prove that the Lu family and the devil path sect have some relations." Shu Weilong said. "Colluding with the devil path sect, it was highly intolerable by the righteous sects. I'm going to the Herb King Mountain to investigate, I'm not finished with the Lu family." Chen Shang clenched his fists and coldly said, "I can only temporarily find 5 good 10th level mortal martial realm martial artists from my investigation. These 5 men appear to be very honest, but they are usually quiet and impoverished. They are often despised by some disciples of noble birth. However, their behavior is very good, and even their strength is also okay. In fact, they can be considered as among the best in the 10th level of the mortal martial realm. Prior to new reforms, they were all in the 200th martial courtyard." Shu Weilong said. Chen Shang nodded his head, "We are looking for such people. However, we should first solicit them into coming here, and we will observe them for some time. If they are trustworthy, then we'll vigorously nurture them." Chapter 202, Divine Sword Province. Chapter 202 Divine Sword Province. The extreme martial sect's reformation was almost finished, that was why most of the disciples were now living in their respective courtyards. Many disciples even began to receive missions and the generous benefits, as well as compete with other disciples. Yuan Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and Shu Weilong, the trio now didn't lack any resources, and now their only concern was to how to get the Golden Disciple title as soon as possible, since all of them were a lazy bunch. Chen Shang resided in the extreme Dan King courtyard in the night, and if he was free during the daytime, Yuan Xiaodao and trio would always come in here to brag. Today, as Chen Shang walked into the small room, he saw a white-haired old man with calm demeanor present. He immediately recalled that this old man was once together with the elders, and he should also be an elder from the elder courtyard. "I'm Elder Tan, the elder responsible for assigning the missions." That old man introduced himself with a smile. The trio of Yuan Xiaodao, Shu Weilong and Zhu Rong were also inside the hall. "Elder Tan, what can I do for you?" Chen Shang asked. The young elders of the extreme martial sect were relatively large in number, and they were also stronger compared to their older counterparts. When disciples saw these younger elders, they generally didn't need to observe proper obeisance, and because of that, many elder were easy to approach. "I came here to give you a task." Elder Tan's complexion turned somewhat serious. "Only you can complete this task, because only you can reach that place quickly." Chen Shang nodded his head. he had vermilion bird fire wings, and anywhere would be a piece of cake for him to quickly reach. We have just received information that our extreme martial sect's disciples in the vicinity of the Proud Sword sect have encountered an attack from the Devil Path martial artists. These Devil Path martial artists are not very strong, and they are more or less in the second and third level of the true martial realm. Elder Tan described the mission. Chen Shang doubtfully asked, "Isn't the Proud Sword sect there? Can't we ask help from them?" Elder Tan shook his head. The Proud Sword sect have always been aloof and they never help outsiders. It was even rarer for them to have contacts with other sects since they regard themselves as aloof from the worldly affairs. They regard themselves as the strongest sect of the Qinwu mainland, however, they have always been suppressed by the extreme martial sect. To put it simply, they will not help us in any way. Chen Shang had also heard this, however, he didn't expect the Proud Sword sect to be so unreasonable. He nodded his head. "Leave them to me. This is regarded as a level 6 mission, you have to be careful." Elder Tan took out a sheet on which a map was drawn, along with some detailed information to assist Chen Shang. After Elder Tan left, Shu Weilong whispered, "Chen Shang, you have to be careful. I seem to remember this Elder Tan had pretty good relations with Liu Shang." Chen Shang frowned and said, "I will be careful." After Chen Shang left the extreme martial sect, he aimlessly strolled in the Tianmen city from east to west. As the night arrived, he entered a hotel, and after posing a disguise, he left the Tianmen city early in the morning. He followed a group of Danxiang Taoyuan's martial artists leaving together the city. It was better to hide his whereabouts. With this, Chen Shang wouldn't need to be afraid of getting attacked by some fearsome martial artists now that no one could find him. He followed that group for 3 days, far away from the extreme martial sect, and in a city, Chen Shang detached himself from the group and entered in a mountain forest alone. To reach the Proud Sword sect, you need to pass through the Taoyuan province. Aren't you going to meet that seductress, Hua Shangyu? Su Meiyao said with a gentle laugh. "No, I'm going to hurry and resolve the matter." Chen Shang leapt into the air as a pair of huge fire wings appeared on his back, then he flew towards Danxiang Taoyuan. With the help of the vermilion bird fire wings, Chen Zhang's speed was extremely fast. He was also pretty high in the air, and as such, no one would be able to attack him. During the time he was away from the extreme martial sect, he was very cautious. He had a very deep-seated hatred with the true martial sect as well as the beast martial sect, not to mention the free immortal sea from the seas. The Divine Sword province was under the jurisdiction of the Proud Sword sect, and the martial artists born and raised there were all sword users. The sword, in their eyes, was the most noble weapon, and other kind of weapons were regarded as inferior by them. Chen Shang flew continuously for 10 days across the Taoyuan province. It was his first time embarking on the land of the Divine Sword province. It was pretty much the same as other provinces, rich in spirit qi, with beautiful forests. Where he was going was at the edge of the Divine Sword province, close to the Icewind Polar region, which was at the border of the Proud Sword sect. The Icewind Polar region was also known as the Icewind province, the smallest province among the Qinwu 9 provinces. It has one of the worst environment, and it has a very scarce population, to the point that it was almost uninhabited. It was under the jurisdiction of Icewind Valley, and even though it only had this sect, this mysterious sect, the Icewind Valley, was still very powerful. If I could finish the mission quickly, then I can visit the Icewind Valley and see Yulin. Chen Shang was very eager to meet this sworn sister. In his mind, the silhouette of a mature and elegant white-haired beauty appeared. After their separation in the King City, he never had contact with Leng Yulin again. While flying, Chen Shang felt more and more cold. He knew that he had arrived at the border of the Proud Sword sect. Soon, a city came into his view, and far away in the outskirts of this city was a crystal stone vein. Because it was discovered by the extreme martial sect's disciples, it was being mined by the extreme martial sect for about 20 years. It was also the reason why the Proud Sword sect bore a grudge against the extreme martial sect. It was not a problem to mine a large crystal stone vein for dozens of years, and the extreme martial sect was also very kind. They didn't mine secretly, and even divulged it to the Proud Sword sect. In accordance with the rules of the Qinwu mainland, the extreme martial sect could mine this large crystal stone vein for 20 years. Now that the extreme martial sect was attacked by the Devil Path martial artists here, the Proud Sword sect would never take action, and on the contrary, they would gloat. Chen Shang arrived in the city. This city was known as the Frozen Sword City, and every martial artist in this place was carrying a sword either on their back or on their waist. This was the custom passed from the old times of the Divine Sword Province, and Chen Shang, in order to not stand out, had already taken out a sword and hanged it on his waist. It was very cold here, however if martial artists were strong enough, they would not be afraid of the cold, instead, they could withstand the cold qi invading their body with their vigorous true qi. Everybody who wore thin clothes were mostly strong martial artists. Chen Shang now wore thick clothes. He feared that Elder Tan colluded with the Lu family, and intentionally made him come here in order to ambush him. So the very first thing he inquired about was whether the extreme martial sect disciples were attacked by the devil path martial artists or not. In the lobby of a hotel, various good and bad people mixed in together. Chen Shang came in and ordered a few dishes. After rewarding a waiter 3 crystal stones, he began to ask some stuff. "Little brother, I'm from outside and just arrived here, I want to ask whether there are devil path martial artists in this neighborhood?" Chen Shang asked. A crystal stone was not a small fortune for the waiter. Even if Chen Shang wanted to inquire about his 18 generations, he would not hesitate to tell. The waiter was thin, inherently born with a smiling face. At this point, he was even more happy. "Distinguished guest, you may not know it, although there are devil path martial artists here, they are afraid of our Divine Sword Province's people. However, for unknown reasons, during the past month, the devil path martial artists have been frequently coming to rob the mines in the outskirts of the city. A good number of disciples from the extreme martial sect have already fallen in their hand. Regarding this matter, the governor's office didn't manage it, the same with the proud sword sect. From the first place, they bore a grudge against the extreme martial sect. However, the extreme martial sect's disciples are not bad. Whenever they came to the city, they would provide rewards to many, and although they have been mining in the Divine Sword Province, it is only for 20 years, that's all. Now it was time for the proud sword sect to take over, and they can mine for a good dozen of years. If the mine wasn't discovered by the extreme martial sect, even their fart would not exist here, and also because of this, many genius came to the city. Chen Shang noticed that the proud sword sect was not very popular, and he also noticed there were a lot of people begging on the sidewalk in the city. Such things would never be found in the extreme martial province. From Xi'an Sha World, Chapter 203, Beating in Their Own Game. Chapter 203 Beating in Their Own Game. Chen Shang took a stroll in the Frozen Sword City for quite some time, exploring the city, collecting more information before buying a map. This map contained detailed information on some mountain ranges within the vicinity of the Frozen Sword City. After comparing it with the map given by Elder Tan, Chen Shang discovered the two routes were different to his surprise. Although both led to the same destination, the Crystal Stone Mine, the map route provided by Elder Tan was somewhat longer, with a very long roundabout route. On the contrary to the map that Chen Shang had just bought, furthermore it had a footpath. It seems that Elder Tan was truly plotting against me. Chen Shang sneered in his heart. I have to meet trickery with another trick, let's see what they have planned, and if possible massacre those planning to ambush me. Chen Shang left the Frozen Sword City, and followed the route from the map given to him by Elder Tan. After entering a forest, Chen Shang indeed found a path according to the map, and after a closer inspection he noticed the path have been just recently dug up. Upon noticing this, he was even more certain that this was a trap Elder Tan and the Devil Path sect set up. The Lu family's most powerful member was a guy from the Devil Path sects, and also the person who passed that evil skill down to Lu Zhangnan. In light of all of this, it was impossible for the Lu family to not have any dealings with the Devil Path sects. Chen Shang didn't go down the path, but merely followed near its vicinity, with his guard raised. For further assurance, he also made Long Shui pay extra attention to their surroundings. After walking down the path for half a day, Long Shui suddenly shouted, I sense an aura. Although this guy has restrained his breath perfectly, but he can't hide it from me. This guy is a lot stronger than you. Chen Shang was surprised and asked, what level? And where? He should be in the 5th level of the true martial realm. His strength is mainly in his true qi, it's an extremely firm and yang true qi, and posses a very dense bloody aura. Long Shui replied, I sense him as hiding under the ground, he should specialize in assassinations. The 5th level of the true martial realm. If Chen Shang really did get ambushed, it would truly have been dangerous. It should be Devil Yang True Qi from the Devil Yang clan. The status of the Devil Yang clan among the Devil Path sects is similar to that of the extreme martial sect. It can regard it as the strongest sect among the Devil Path sects. Although the Devil Path sects have many conflicts with the righteous sects, they rarely dare to occupy mines belonging to righteous sects. Is there a lack of resources in the Devil Province? Bai Yu asked with doubt. Although the Devil Province area was not small, there were many large Devil Path sects, and countless smaller sects. Although they all walked the Devil Path, there was still a need of a large amount of resources. Kill or not to kill? Chen Shang inquired an opinion from Su Meiyao and others. Don't kill him, engulf him. Bai Yu coldly smiled. Chen Shang was shocked at the suggestion, to use the engulfing devil technique to engulf his opponent, not to mention it was a 5th level true martial realm martial artist, many levels above him. Currently your constitution is far better than before, your body can accommodate a large amount of true qi. There's no need to worry about blasting yourself to death. Bai Yu assured him. Chen Shang nodded his head. He was now in the 2nd level of the true martial realm, while his real strength was almost encroaching the 4th level of the true martial realm. There was no great disparity between him and a 5th level true martial realm martial artist. Moreover, he was in wilderness and there was no one else present here. The other party was a Devil Path sect's evil disciple, so Chen Shang could use the engulfing devil technique without any worry. Although the engulfing devil technique should not see the light of day, when it is used, it should be used without any delay. Bai Yu said. Chen Shang nodded his head, and cautiously went forward in accordance with Long Shui's guidance, silently shuttling through the trees on the trees. Not the slightest sound was made as Chen Shang silently approached his ambusher. That Devil Yang clan's disciple was beneath the earth. Due to this, he mainly had to rely on his hearing and vibrations to determine if someone was close by or not. If Chen Shang was on the trees, it would be impossible for the assassin to detect any vibrations in the ground, and the sound made while shuttling would be disguised in the rustling of the leaves in the wind. He's right down there, covered in a thin layer of soil. You should be able to pierce a claw through the dirt and reach him. Long Shui pointed on the ground and said. Chen Shang released his divine sense, and quickly discovered a man buried under the path. That person possessed a very rich as well as brisk true qi in his body. It seemed that he was ready to take action at a moment's notice, similar to a ferocious tiger waiting to attack after storing enough power. A layer of transparent true qi appeared on Chen Zhang's palm, circling around it. This was the profound aura finger, however, he was also using the universal true qi. At the same time, Chen Shang operated the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, converging his entire breath. He lightly jumped off the tree, with his 5 fingers clasped together acting like a spear tip. He aligned his path with the man prone on the ground, and thrusted straight towards it. Chen Zhang's target was the part of the man's area with the most rich true qi, his dantian. Not to mention the soft soil, even if it was hard iron, Chen Zhang's 5 profound aura finger would be able to easily pierce through it. If that man didn't have extremely powerful spirit equipment, then he would definitely be drilled into. As Chen Shang stabbed down his arm, the ground shook a little. That man sensed a dangerous aura enveloping his body, however, he was still late by a beat. Chen Shang could feel something hot and sticky on his hand as his hand penetrated the soil. As Chen Shang immediately operated the engulfing devil technique, that deep and oppressive true qi immediately surged into his arm's meridians and spread throughout his body. This absorption speed was very fast. That man also rushed out of the ground, but Chen Zhang's arm remained in his victim's abdomen. That man had the appearance of an ordinary middle-aged man. However, his face had been completely contorted with pain and fear. He felt the continual loss of his true qi from his dantian. At the same time, pain but more frightening was the numbness that coursed through his body soon after. The numbness in his nerves rendered his entire body powerless. You're Chen Shang. That man barely hissed out a few words. Chen Shang didn't reply, he was suppressing that oppressive true qi surging into his body with all his concentration. Meanwhile, that man soon realized that Chen Shang had seen the ambush. How did you know? That man strugglingly asked. He couldn't believe he had been ambushed. He was very confident in his concealment abilities. Chen Shang still didn't reply and kept on madly extracting that man's true qi as his body gradually started shriveling up. However, he was still alive, albeit barely. I've already extracted your power, so I'll let you die satisfied. I knew about extreme martial sect's Elder Tan joining hands with the Lu family. I figured someone was planning to ambush me along the route Elder Tan gave me, so I just replied back in kind. Chen Shang said with a sneer. That man had an indignant look. However, from the expression in his dying eyes was clear undisguised envy. Anyone following the devil path would be deadly jealous of Chen Shang possessing a martial technique that could absorb other people's true qi. This was practically most yearned and sought after technique in the devil path sects. Since you like hiding in the ground so much, then you can stay there forever. Chen Shang mercilessly laughed as he ripped his hand back out before incinerating the dying assassin and covering him with soil. As Chen Shang had just engulfed all the true qi from someone in 5th level true martial realm, he needed to quickly find a place to refine it. Although there was a lot of true qi, he would only receive 30 to 40% after refining it. This was because there were a ton of impurities inside absorbed true qi. Chen Shang had to refine it many times before it was pure enough for him to integrate it into the 5 beast forms that resided in his dantian. After 3 days passed, Chen Shang awoke. Before this, each divine beast form had 15 true element grains illuminated. However, now there was 17 illuminated true element grains in every beast form, a total increase of 10 grains. Although that man's true qi was quite vigorous, ultimately Chen Shang could only integrate a small portion of it. After waking up, Chen Shang continued to walk towards the mine. After walking for half an hour or so, he suddenly heard very familiar sound. That's Yulin's voice. Chen Shang rejoiced in his heart, while accelerating his footsteps. Chapter 204, Unexpected Encounter. Chapter 204 Unexpected Encounter. Leng Yulin's appearance was completely out of Chen Zhang's expectations. This made him somewhat doubtful, as well as anxious because he soon sensed Leng Yulin was actually fighting with someone else. Chen Shang leapt onto the top of a tree. Suddenly a white-haired girl came into his view. Leng Yulin's white hair were like a hanging shawl. Her sharp beautiful face filled was with pride and an aura of coldness. Her slightly knit curved eyebrows combined with a pair of shining pitch-black pupils excluded a majestic aura, which were now mainly focused on the several enemies in front of her. Even though she was wearing a mighty and domineering black armor, it could still not conceal her hot and mature figure. On her back laid a large sword. Altogether she was giving off an impression of maturity, elegance, tyranny, pride, which was filled with a bizarre kind of enchantment. Yulin seems to be less than 20-year-old, yet she is so stunning. Chen Shang secretly praised. White-haired demoness, you've been blocking our way again and again. Today, we've gathered so many people. Ha ha ha, you're definitely going to die. While speaking, a man swung his sword towards Leng Yulin, hacking towards her as another 5 men also simultaneously launched their attacks. Chen Shang was just about to jump in, but he suddenly felt an intense cold qi spreading out. An oppressive cold qi continuously overflowed from Leng Yulin's charming body. All around her body a few ice walls suddenly appeared, blocking the sword thrusts from those men. At the same time, Leng Yulin's figure disappeared. Soon he realized it was due to extremely high-speed movement. Chen Shang remembered that Leng Yulin had told him before she specialized in speed. Chen Shang could use his divine sense to grasp Leng Yulin's lingering trail, however, if he wanted to follow it, it would be highly improbable. With a flash of cold light, Leng Yulin appeared as she pulled out that huge and domineering giant sword on her back, cleanly cleaving a man into 2. Shua shua shua. Leng Yulin quickly hacked out and instantly beheading those in the middle of a freezing cold atmosphere. The frozen ground was now completely covered in warm blood, as it too soon froze into a beautiful scarlet ice. Chen Shang took a deep breath. He didn't expect this girl to actually be so violent, however, he knew that Leng Yulin's father was a renowned general, and a very ruthless one at that. So it was also quite natural for Leng Yulin to be similar to her father. Still going to hide? Quickly roll out. I don't mind killing another person. Leng Yulin coldly spoke. Her voice carried majesty and pride along with a cold and ruthless intention. Chen Shang heaved a long sigh. Leng Yulin was actually in the 4th level of the true martial realm, with very rich true qi. Additionally, Leng Yulin also had a dual vein, the fire and ice heavenly vein, just a level lower than the divine vein. Just a moment ago, Leng Yulin was besieged by multiple 2nd-level true martial realm martial artists, however, she finished off everyone under 2-3 strikes. What made Chen Shang lament was that she actually didn't even bat an eye while killing them. It was very barbaric. Chen Shang flew from the trees into the sky, landing right in front of Leng Yulin and carefully observed her. He looked at that cold and proud stunning face, that barbaric white-haired beauty, whose whole body exuded a kind of wild body fragrance. Each and every part of her body was equally attractive. Along with her white hair, cold and proud temperament, peerless mature face, and proud and erect bosom, that could be clearly seen even though it was closely wrapped by the armor, made people unable to help themselves but take a couple of glances. Look again, and I will gouge out your eyes. Leng Yulin angrily shouted. Chen Zhang's eyes stayed on her for a long time, especially on her ample and erect bosom. Leng Yulin didn't recognize Chen Shang. After posing a disguise, he took on the persona of a middle-aged man. When Leng Yulin and Chen Shang met long ago, he was still just a young teenager. If not for you exuding a righteous aura, I would have already beheaded you. Who are you, and what are doing here? You're not those soft bastards from the Proud Sword sect. Leng Yulin said as she glanced at the sword on Chen Zhang's waist. Chen Shang glanced all around them, before revealing a smile. Yulin, it's me Chen Shang. This threw off Leng Yulin. After retreating a few steps, she took a closer look at Chen Shang, and finally her eyes closed in on his eyes. Brother, is it really you? Leng Yulin still was in disbelief. She couldn't recognize Chen Shang, although the voice sounded familiar and not many knew about the relation about her and Chen Zhang's relation. She still found it hard to believe, as such she still kept her guard up. Hey, that stupid crown prince injured you using poisonous needles. Afterwards I helped you, and also gave you a metal spirit fruit, asking you to go to the extreme martial sect. Chen Shang laughed and said. Suddenly a stream of water appeared on his palm, washing off the makeup on his face, revealing an angular and handsome face. Brother. After seeing that face, Leng Yulin's eyes suddenly became moist. She fiercely threw herself into Chen Zhang's arms. Perhaps she was too happy. This stubborn, cold and proud white-haired beauty actually started crying. Little girl, why are you crying? Smile, smile. Chen Shang laughed, while stroking that elegant face. Although they had not been together for long, they didn't know why, but both of them still missed each other very much. Leng Yulin wiped her tears, and gave a slight smile. She looked very charming, like a rainbow after the rain, causing Chen Shang to become absent-minded. Yulin, you grew up fine. Moreover, so formidable. Just a moment ago you couldn't wait to castrate me. Chen Shang teased, making Leng Yulin slightly lowered her head. A rare blush appeared on that cold and proud face as she lightly spat in response. Chen Shang grinned, while caressing that soft and beautiful white hair. He asked, Yulin, are you doing fine in the Icewind Valley? No one is bullying you there, right? Brother, I'm doing great, you don't have to worry about me. Leng Yulin revealed a sweet smile. Although she didn't appear to be like those cute smiling girls, she still looked extremely bewitching at this moment. That's good, let's go to another place to talk. Chen Shang looked at the bodies littered on the ground and squeezed her face. Leng Yulin nodded her head like an obedient little girl. In her heart she felt nothing but gratitude towards Chen Shang. He had changed her fate, otherwise she would not be so strong or even standing here today. Leng Yulin released some flames and burned those corpses, before grabbing Chen Zhang's hand, and going down a familiar route in the forest that led to a very secretive cave. Brother, when I heard the things about you, I was very worried. Originally I was planning to go to extreme martial sect to look for you, but the dean didn't let me. She said I wasn't strong enough. Leng Yulin gave Chen Shang some light flowery and fragrant wine. Chen Shang didn't expect Leng Yulin to literally get drunk in happiness. Chen Shang smiled, Yulin, you better get stronger first. Brother can handle his stuff, there's no need to worry about me. Leng Yulin naughtily stuck out her tongue. Only in front of Chen Shang would she turn into a normal girl. Humph, brother is so good to me. Again and again you've sent me building foundation dams. In this valley there were many greedy people, I just wanted help brother out somehow. Leng Yulin was a very strong-willed girl. She didn't want to be Chen Zhang's little guarded sister all day. She had always been elevating her strength in order to help Chen Shang out one day, even though she knew Chen Shang was very formidable by himself. Chen Shang smiled and said, is that why you came here? To help the extreme martial sect in fending off those devil path martial artists. Leng Yulin nodded her head. The Proud Sword sect are working hand in hand with the devil path martial artists to get rid of the extreme martial sect's members who have been mining here for the last 10 years. Chen Shang frowned. He had already guessed this matter had another hidden matter behind it. Is this true? Chen Shang asked. Chapter 205, Great Storm. Chapter 205 Great Storm. It's true. I've been here for 2 months now and have overheard Devil Yang clan disciples talking with Proud Sword sect disciples. Not only that, according to our dean, there has been infighting among the Proud Sword sect for a good number of years. One side had colluded with the Devil Yang clan, which should be headed by the northern supervisor of the Proud Sword sect. However, there was no evidence whatsoever, so my dean could not act. Leng Yulin replied. Chen Shang observed some of the stones in the illuminated cave and said, Yulin, you've been staying here alone for 2 months, it must not have been easy. That's nothing compared to what I've faced during cultivation, now that was far worse. Leng Yulin replied as if it had nothing to do with her, then grinned, brother, I'm definitely more formidable than you now. I'm in the 4th level of the true martial realm, moreover I have the fire and ice divine vein. However, in order to protect me, Dean declared I just have the fire and ice heavenly vein to the outside. Chen Xiang was stunned by this revelation, and even Su Meiyao along with Bai Yuyu exclaimed again and again. Leng Yulin actually had the fire and ice divine vein. No wonder she managed to advance so quickly. Chen Xiang took out a piece of the earth core divine fruit pulp and passed it over to Leng Yulin, who just ate it with no formalities. Yulin, nothing can be said to be absolute. Although I'm only in the 2nd level of the true martial realm, if I were to fight you, hey. Chen Xiang said with a laugh. After eating the earth core divine fruit, Leng Yulin frowned before sweetly smiling, brother, this is good stuff. She closed her eyes and took a slight breather before reopening her eyes. Chen Xiang was surprised for a moment, even if it was Elder Dan or Ji Yu Dongchen, those Nirvana realm tycoons, they took a good several days to refine the earth core divine fruit pulp. However, Leng Yulin had finished refining it in practically an instant. Yulin, did you not refine it? Chen Xiang asked. I'm refining it, it's just my fire and ice true chi is very special. It can self-refine, and then integrate that power into my body. Leng Yulin once again poured Chen Xiang a glass of that fragrant wine. Brother, you say you're better than me, how about a fight then? Leng Yulin clenched her jade fists and asked with a look of excitement. Chen Xiang didn't expect his own sworn sister to actually be so bellicose. No need to be so anxious, let me first deal with the things here first. Once I'm done, I'll take you to extreme martial sect to play. Chen Xiang said with a smile. He had such a powerful sister here, Chen Xiang suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. And, even if the dean came to stop me, I would still follow you to the extreme martial sect. Leng Yulin excitedly said. Is your dean female? Chen Xiang asked. Yes, however I've never seen her face before. She's the same as your extreme martial sect's Elder Dan, wearing a mask all the time. When I went to the extreme martial sect, it was Elder Dan who recommended me to the dean. Afterwards, she took me straight to Icewind Valley. She is very good to me, and it seems that the relationship between her and the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire's Empress are pretty good. Last time, it was exactly the Empress who sent the building foundation Dan. Brother, I didn't expect your fiancé to be Shui Shenxian. While speaking the last sentence, there was a sliver of jealousy in Leng Yulin's voice. When Chen Xiang thought of Elder Dan, the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire Empress, Lu Menger, the Icewind Valley Dean, and the Dean of Danxiang Taoyuan, these 4 female tycoons, Chen Xiang forcefully smiled. Among these 4 individuals, 3 were tycoons of powerful forces from 3 different regions, while Elder Dan can be regarded as one of the tycoons of the extreme martial sect. Not to mention, all 4 of them were females. Except for Lu Menger of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, the other 3 were all very mysterious. What's more, there seemed to be close relations between all of them. The vein mined by the extreme martial sect is currently surrounded and under siege from the Devil Yang clan's disciples, but your extreme martial sect's members are not so easy to deal with. Currently, the mine still hasn't been compromised. The Devil Yang clan also do not dare to be too overbearing, they know their fates will not be good if they angered the extreme martial sect. I've been dealing with the Devil Yang clan, and would occasionally butcher a few. However, Leng Yulin had never expected she would encounter Chen Xiang here. Brother, if we want to settle this thing well, we need to have the strength of 6th level of the true martial realm at the very least. But only you, someone who's only a 2nd level of the true martial realm martial artist was sent, what's going on? Also you do not have any other companions? Leng Yulin asked with a serious look. Chen Xiang sneered and replied, one guy wants to kill me, but... He quickly informed Leng Yulin of the ongoing and recent matters, minus the engulfing part of course. Brother, you are truly insidious. Leng Yulin exclaimed, you actually killed a 5th level true martial realm martial artist. He should be one of the commanders that I've seen before. Chen Xiang very arrogantly said, Lu Shang, that true 9th true martial realm martial artist, was also killed by me. What does a mere 5th level true martial realm count for? That does not count, you relied on the force of lighting. Moreover, it was very dangerous. Leng Yulin said in a tender voice. At this time, those pair of beautiful eyes were full of battle lust, she could not wait to have a bout with her elder brother. Chen Shang just laughed off Leng Yulin's will to fight. He touched Leng Yulin's face and said, I'm going to enter the mine and get rid of those guys, are you going to come with me? Leng Yulin stared at Chen Shang and that handsome face of his, she could not help but extend her beautiful hand to touch it. She replied with a grin, if anyone said so, I'll definitely call them a fool for going to seek death. But if elder brother is not afraid to die, how can I, your little sister, chicken out? Chen Shang smiled and asked, you're really not afraid? Of course not, let's go right now. I have always been thinking of roaming the world together with you. This is my heartfelt desire. Leng Yulin placed that big sword on her back, and left. Leng Yulin spoke to leave, and then instantly left, truly decisive. Chen Shang followed her out of the cave and into the forest, cautiously walking. At this time, Leng Yulin was very excited, it really was her heartfelt wish to be with Chen Shang. Yulin, originally, I was planning to go to Icewind Valley to find you. You being here was totally out my expectations, I'm very happy. I always wanted to contact you, but couldn't. Chen Shang said in a low voice. I've been forced into closed-door training by the dean, she is very strict on me. If not for that, how could I be this powerful at such a young age? She wanted me to advance quickly so that I could cope with the oncoming storm, otherwise I could easily lose my life at that time. Leng Yulin said. A great storm. Chen Shang suddenly thought of the great battle between the three heavenly realms. Remembering this, Chen Zhang's entire body was drenched in cold sweat. The extreme martial sect had just went through major changes, this could very likely in preparation for this great storm, Ji Yudongchen and Wu Kaming might also have known about this major upcoming event. Every 100,000 years, the three heavenly realms would converge together and form a passage, signifying the start of the great battle. Yulin, you have to cultivate even more seriously. That tremendous storm is extremely frightening, the extreme martial sect has just started preparations for that very storm. I'll give you some building foundation dans. Chen Shang said in a heavy tone. No need, building foundation dans are not very useful to me. The reason for my fast cultivation are not building foundation dans, but instead because of my divine veins and the place where I cultivate, as well the brutal techniques. Brother, you should leave them for yourself. Leng Yulin felt very grateful for Chen Zhang's help, and she has always been thinking about how to repay him. However, contrary to her wish, she simply had no idea how to. It could said that Chen Shang didn't lack anything, after all, he was a level 4 alchemist. From Xi'an Sha World, Chapter 206, Devil Bow Might. Chapter 206 Devil Bow Might. TLN. Need to tell some things, the extreme martial sect have been mining only for 10 years, in Chapter 202's last para there was a mistake pointing it has already been 20 years and it was time for Proud Sword sect to take over. I mistook Dao Shi by that time for Si Shi at this time and hence the mistake. I have been confused over the part why the Proud Sword sect was attacking even though it was time to took over, now finally realized my mistake. Ha ha ha, sorry. Chen Shang and Leng Yulin hid inside the forest, observing the wall far away in the wilderness. Because the crystal stone mine was very important, the extreme martial sect had surrounded the mine with thick and high walls. Chen Shang didn't expect for there to such a large structure and so deep inside the forest too. He also noticed there were many tents erected just in front of the gate, where many people were walking around. Those were all Devil Yang clan disciples, furthermore there were a lot. They actually dared to camp directly in front of the entrance. There's a total of 100 or so Devil Yang clan disciples. They're relatively stronger than the true martial realm martial artists from the extreme martial sect, which is why they're so bold. Leng Yulin explained. She tightly grabbed Chen Zhang's hand, she was suddenly worried that he would immediately rush over, which would be extremely dangerous. Yulin, there's no need to worry about me. Chen Shang smiled. I'm not worried about you, just afraid that you will act recklessly. Leng Yulin had been staying here for 2 months now, and she had some understanding regarding these Devil Yang clan disciples. If the Devil Yang clan wasn't strong enough, she would have already massacred them all. In her heart, she believed that no matter what, Chen Shang was currently weaker than her. Chen Shang pulled out a black bow and mischievously smiled. Yulin, do you know what this is? Looking at that bow, Leng Yulin was slightly stunned before exclaiming in a low voice, demanding life devil bow. I heard that brother got it after killing a disciples from the 100 Poison sect, but wasn't brother injured by Liao Xiaoyun from the true martial sect soon after, who also took away the bow? Chen Shang laughed and said, correct, but Liao Xiaoyun gave it to his apprentice. After I killed his apprentice, I reclaimed it. You should have heard about the true martial sect and the beast martial sect coming to create trouble during the grand tournament of our extreme martial sect. Lang Yulan nodded her head. At that time, Chen Shang made a magnificent appearance, won 3 competitions and even handed the Lu family genius a miserable loss. Not to mention ruthlessly defeating the 2 people who came to create trouble during the martial arts competition. It was exactly in such a way that the extreme martial sect broke all relations with the true martial sect and beast martial sect. Afterwards, Chen Shang killed a 3rd-level true martial realm martial artist in the Black Tortoise Mountain, and did many similar things inside it. Although Lang Yulan never left Icewind Valley, the information still reached her. She could see how big Chen Zhang's reputation was. Lang Yulan was very proud to have such a brother, and Chen Shang also loved her very dearly. He even sent her those precious building foundation dans. "Brother, what are you going to do?" Lang Yulan asked. With the help of powerful divine sense from the little dragoness on Chen Shang's arm, he was able to learn the cultivation level of the people hidden inside the tents. 1 5th-level true martial realm, 3 3rd-level true martial realm, 5 2nd-level true martial realm, 10 1st-level true martial realm, while the rest of them are mortal martial realm martial artist. I'll use this bow to kill the 3 3rd-level true martial realm martial artists, and then deal with the 5th-level true martial realm martial artist after. I'll leave the rest of the minions to you, Chen Shang said, then aimed at a tent. Wait, I'll deal with that 5th-level true martial realm martial artist. Brother, you go deal with those minions. Lang Yulan hastily said. No can do, I'll deal with him. Chen Shang exhorted. For him, a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist was trivial. After all, he had the Black Tortoise Adamantine armor. He was naturally fearless of someone in the 5th level of the true martial realm. However, Lang Yulan was different. Brother, leave him for me. I've been inside the Icewind Valley and didn't get to do anything I wanted to. If I can't beat him, you can help me. Lang Yulan held Chen Zhang's arm and flirtatiously said. Chen Shang felt his own arm caught between 2 soft lumps, as a tint of red appeared on his face. Okay. But you have to remember, don't try to act brave. Lang Yulan gave a smile, nodded her head, and gave Chen Shang a kiss on his cheeks, making him somewhat startled. Looking at the flushed Chen Shang, Lang Yulan giggled and said, Brother, you are really shy. Chen Shang knocked on her head, smiled and said, You know you just molested your pure brother. Lang Yulan released Chen Zhang's arm, and returned to her previous serious look, becoming wary of her surroundings. Chen Shang raised the demanding life devil bow, and aimed at one of the tents, laughing in a low voice, These guys are very noble. Every one of them have their own tents, truly heaven is helping me. A 3rd-ranked 7th-level spirit weapon, finally all able to see how powerful this thing is. Lang Yulan was also very much in anticipation of the upcoming fight. Chen Shang smiled and said, I rarely use this thing, wait for me to finish dealing with these guys then I'll give it to you. While speaking, Chen Shang poured his universal true chi into the demanding life devil bow, as a black arrow suddenly appeared. Chen Shang aimed with his divine sense at the devil yang true chi inside the tent. As he released the devil bowstring, a black arrow shot into that tent in the blink of an eye. Chen Shang aimed directly at that man's dantian. After the arrow from the demanding life devil bow entered his body, a powerful true chi broke out, destroying everything inside that man's body in the blink of an eye. Completely silent and very ruthless, not to mention Chen Shang had also used that frightening universal true chi, which made the arrow even more formidable. Which made it possible to take the life of a 3rd-level true martial realm martial artist in the blink of an eye. Very formidable. Brother can stir up too much trouble, it's better you leave it for yourself. Lang Yulan lightly smiled. Although she knew the bow was very precious, she felt leaving it to Chen Shang would keep him safer. Good sister, I'll visit the divine weapon Heavenly Empire and make Shenxian's teacher help you forge a good weapon. Chen Shang said. While enjoying the view with smiling white-haired beauty, Chen Shang shot another arrow, killing off another 3rd-level true martial realm martial artist. Now Chen Shang came to know why this demanding life devil bow was placed 3rd among all 7th-level spirit weapons, and why it was called the devil bow. It was very powerful. True Chi became even more powerful after passing through the special spirit array on the devil bow. Lang Yulan also endlessly praised the shot. With a charming smile she said, Brother, the dean said she will help me get a powerful large sword. It's just that she has not found all the materials yet. Right, brother, Shenxian is equally as famous as me, you say who is more beautiful between me and her? This question made Chen Shang sweat. He laughed and said, Damn girl, why are you making things difficult for me? Both of you are equally beautiful. Lang Yulan sweetly smiled, her smile was very charming. Chen Xiang didn't expect this cold and proud as well as mature and stunning white-haired beauty to actually have such a cute side. You better call her sister-in-law. Chen Xiang laughed and said while shooting another arrow. As such, 3 third-level true martial realm martial artists had been killed. If these 3 Devil Yang clan disciples came to learn that they were shot to death by a brat who was also laughing with a beauty, they would definitely turn in their graves. No, that would make her sound older, she seems only a little older than me, so I'll just call her sister. Lang Yulan acted spoiled because she was very happy to be together with Chen Xiang. She could act freely around him, while she would always take a domineering appearance in front of other people. That was because she was very hesitant towards others, and that was her self-protection mechanism. Assassinated without any sound or breath, which had allowed Chen Xiang to effortlessly complete half of his mission. Of course, if he shot a 4th or 5th level true martial realm martial artist, he could not guarantee that he would not be detected. That's why only after dealing with these weaker disciples did he intend to shoot that 5th level true martial realm martial artist. This way, he and Lang Yulan would face less danger during the battle with that strong devil path martial artist. Chapter 207, Siblings Team Up. Chapter 207 Siblings Team Up. Chen Xiang easily dealt with the 3 third-level true martial realm Devil Yang clan disciples, but he still didn't move out at this point. He continued to shoot those 5 second-level true martial realm martial artists instead. Anyway, it was a very easy thing to do, and it would allow him to save a lot of troublesome stuff he would have to deal with in the end. Yulan, do you know what's the relationship between the Empress of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and your dean? Chen Xiang asked, while aiming at a relatively farther tent, once again shooting another arrow. I don't know, every time she comes, she is very mysterious, same when she leaves. I don't even know when she arrives or leaves. The dean is also mysterious, we can't see her frequently, and generally Icewind Valley is managed by the elders. I've been in the Icewind Valley for such a long time, yet I've met with the dean no more than 20 times. Lang Yulan replied, she too was full of uncertainty, and very curious about this matter. Chen Xiang was not surprised, because Danxiang Taoyuan's dean and Elder Dan were also like this, completely unfathomable and mysterious. Elder Dan was still good, at least she made frequent appearances. However, Danxiang Taoyuan's dean and Icewind Valley's dean were both completely shrouded in mystery and very rarely went out. All of them were females, not to mention tycoons of their respective influences. In the end, why were they concealing themselves in such a way? According to Elder Dan, she did so in order to protect herself, as she had the Purple Moon Fire Spirit. More specifically, she was worried about getting caught by the Fire Spirit Seekers. Was the Icewind Valley's dean and the Danxiang Taoyuan's dean also doing the same for similar reasons? Did both of them have a fire spirit? Or some other kind of powerful thing? In a matter of few seconds, the 5 second-level true martial realm marshal of the Devil Yang clan were also silently dealt with by Chen Xiang. After resting for a bit, Chen Xiang spoke in a heavy tone, Yulan, are you ready? I'm going to attack the 5th-level true martial realm martial artist, if I could not kill that guy, you need to attack. Lang Yulan's jade-like hands were already on the hilt of that big sword on her back. She had a dead serious look, she was done with her preparations. Chen Xiang poured a lot of universal true qi into the demanding life devil bow, only after the bow could not absorb any more true qi did he shoot the arrow. That arrow was rather big, after Chen Xiang shot it into a relatively larger tent, it only shook a little before a thunderous roar came from inside. Suddenly, a burly guy shot out from the top of the tent, jumped up into the air, holding a black broadsword and roared again and again in anger. Which mongrel secretly plotted again this father, quickly roll out. That burly man shouted. Followed closely after by that man roars, close to 100 people from also came out from the tent. While Lang Yulan fiercely pulled out that big sword on her back with a cold shout, single-handedly clasping that domineering giant sword. She appeared even more valiant and fierce, even more wild. White-haired demoness, you again. That man just finished his sentence before Lang Yulan's figure disappeared. In the blink of an eye, she appeared tens of jong beyond, with both hands holding that sword, fiercely cleaved towards that man. Cold chi burst out and suddenly covered the entrance. However, just after that cold chi appeared, a sudden rush of heat burst out, making people very uncomfortable. Most terrifying was the fusion of that hot and cold chi, which formed a very peculiar true chi, which made everyone present feel an indescribable uncomfortableness. That strike of Leng Yulin was extremely overbearing, however, that ruthless strike was blocked by a black broadsword. Yet an explosive sound burst out, as a fissure suddenly appeared on that man's broadsword. Seeing this, Chen Xiang was completely dumbfounded. After the fusion of fire and ice true chi, the true chi actually became so terrifying. It was very difficult to imagine such a girl was actually capable of releasing such an overbearing true chi, not to mention after the true chi impact a very fierce explosion was also produced. Leng Yulin's 4th level of the true martial realm strength was actually comparable with someone in the 5th level true martial realm who also belonged to the Devil Yang clan. Although she was holding a large sword, her sword techniques were very nimble and elegant, whoever looking upon this scene had a strange feeling. Of course, her speed was also very terrifying. She suddenly disappeared again and reappeared behind that man, making it very hard to keep track of her movements. That man was able to reach the 5th level of the true martial realm, so of course he was not a vegetarian. Although he was suppressed by Leng Yulin, he was still able to resist her attacks. Leng Yulin's speed was very hard to follow, but he had a very rich true chi. He would always release a true chi shield just at the right time to resist Leng Yulin's quick blows. This man has been waiting for those 2nd and 3rd level true martial realm martial artists to arrive. He originally believed he would be able to relax soon. However, after waiting for such a long time, they were still nowhere to be seen. Only 10 first level true martial realm and a large group of mortal martial realm disciples rushed over. All of them were very weak, just coming close to Leng Yulin's overbearing true chi would result in them being blown away. Chen Xiang realized Leng Yulin was extremely formidable, and was devoid of any further worries. Without any further scruples, Chen Xiang pulled out the iron sword on his waist, and arrived in front of that group of disciples after a few jumps. With shua 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 sounds, he waved the long sword in his hand, along with sword chi fluctuations. Endless sword shadows appeared as he poured a deep and terrifying true chi into the long sword, turning that ordinary sword into a divine weapon of slaughter. In a short span of time, numerous 10th level mortal martial realm disciples were beheaded. The true martial realm disciples noticed Chen Xiang was extremely formidable and immediately retreated. While battling with Leng Yulin, that man madly shouted a few names. Chen Xiang guessed those were people who had just died under his devil bow. No matter how that man shouted, no one else came out from the tents. During the battle, the tents were blown away from the chi waves. At this point, that man had to accept that all those people were already dead. This made him extremely furious. He fiercely slashed towards Leng Yulin in anger, but she easily dodged the attack, which made that man even more angry as well as extremely anxious. Chen Xiang had been surrounded by a group of disciples. All of them were 10th level mortal martial realm along with 1st level true martial realm martial artists, but in Chen Zhang's eyes they were nothing more than ants. Everyone together, a middle-aged man yelled. He had just taken a step forward when suddenly a golden light overflowed from Chen Zhang's arm. He quickly jabbed towards the large group, as a huge fist formed from golden true chi came crashing towards them. A suffocating slaughter chi also suddenly appeared and enshrouded those people's heart, making them fall into a deadly fear. Chen Xiang punched out fist after fist, as intense chi waves burst out like storm, and swept towards that group while scraping off a thick layer of soil. As those fists struck those people, they were blasted completely into smithereens. Like billowing thunder, thunderous sound shook everything. It was extremely terrifying. The wall was already filled with people watching as they dumbfoundingly stared down at that sharp assault from a boy and a girl duo. Although the true chi's attribute of both of them was different, they were equally overbearing and mighty, sweeping away all obstacles in their path. Piercing blood-curdling screams echoed in the mountains, making everyone feel jittery. Chen Zhang's attacks were very vicious. Each punch was a white tiger divine fist filled with immense slaughter chi. Not only were those struck killed by the explosions, even those remnant chi waves caused many to become heavily injured. Was this the strength of a super strong martial artist? Those people standing on the walls looked at those terrifying and brutal punches from Chen Xiang in wonder. Each fist strike would cause the victim to vanish into a puff of smoke. This kind of strength made them all gasp with shock. At the same time, they were also secretly excited in their hearts because someone had finally come to rescue them. Chapter 208, Proud Sword Sect. Chapter 208 Proud Sword Sect. Those Devil Yang clan disciples suddenly felt they simply didn't deserve to be called Devil Sect disciples. In their eyes, Chen Zhang's existence was akin to Devil God. Many 10th level mortal martial realm disciples wet their pants in fear from the brutal punches coming from Chen Zhang. Now, the entrance outside the mine not only had the lingering smell of blood, there was also a belch of foul stench. Now, less than 30 disciples were left from the original pack of almost 100 people. These remaining few started fleeing in fear, while madly uttering piercing screams. Chen Zhang didn't attack them, yet those people still continued to let out sharp screams from fear. Seeing those people fleeing, Chen Zhang didn't chase them down. All the true martial realm martial artists had been killed by him, only those 10th level mortal martial realm raw away. Regarding them, he was not a bit worried. He looked at faraway place, that was transmitting tremors one after another. There, Leng Yulin had been fighting with the last remaining man. Chen Zhang had always been paying attention to their fight. It was unknown how many strikes Leng Yulin hacked out, her attacks had always been either blocked or dodged by the other party. However, she was very tolerant and patient, and had very rich battle experience. She knew she had to remain calm, despite the vicious words that man cursed at her with. It was as if his words were nothing but the wind. Her strength was basically evenly matched with that man's, she didn't have any leeway to make any mistakes, otherwise she would lose the battle. An opportunity came. Leng Yulin suddenly saw that man was a little bit slower, that extremely little bit of difference allowed her to cut that man's arm as he let out a miserable howl. Taking advantage of that man roaring in pain, Leng Yulin hacked out another sword strike. In the blink of an eye she disappeared, and appeared behind that man. She thrusted her giant sword extremely swiftly, it appeared like a beam of light as it flew towards her opponent. That giant sword cold chi was closely followed by a release of hot chi, turning into a strange unique type of true chi that emitted crackling sounds. This kind of true chi was poured into that big sword, and thrusted into that man's body, appearing out the other end. Furthermore, it also produced a small explosion, blowing apart that man's upper body. As Leng Yulin waved her jade-like hands, a group of flames fell on that man's corpse, turning it into ash. Only at this point did she heave a sigh. While panting, she arrived in front of Chen Zhang. This made those people standing on the wall once again tremble with fear. A girl could actually brutally murder someone in such a cruel and merciless way. Chen Zhang took a handkerchief, and wiped away the sweat on Leng Yulin's face. With a grin he said, "Tyrannical princess, you truly don't fight like a girl." "Brother, I'm formidable, right? I killed a 5th level true martial realm martial artist." Leng Yulin proudly smiled and said. "Not as much as I. If it was me, I would not have taken such a long time." Chen Zhang squeezed her face and smiled. "I don't believe you. Why don't we have a bout then?" Leng Yulin immediately retorted, as a glint appeared in her pretty eyes. Chen Zhang shook his head, then smiled and said, "Now is not the time, things are still not finished." While speaking, he looked up towards those people standing on the wall, hugged Leng Yulin's waist and took a light leap, jumping onto that around 20 jong high wall. "Don't worry, I'm from the extreme martial sect. I want to see the person in charge here," Chen Zhang said, while releasing Leng Yulin. Those people were still immersed in shock from the previous massacre. When Chen Zhang, this slaughtering god, suddenly leapt towards them, they were scared shitless as they immediately retreated a few steps. Chen Zhang scooped out a medal from his pocket, which was the proof of an extreme martial sect disciple's identity. These people were skeptical about Chen Zhang being from the proud sword sect, but they didn't expect Chen Zhang would turn out to be from the extreme martial sect, or that the extreme martial sect had such a ruthless individual. "Hey, don't you know me? I helped you, are you doubting me too?" Leng Yulin's stunning face turned completely ice cold. "Of course we recognize you, cold demoness. We have long heard of your name," one guy hastily replied. Leng Yulin was indeed very famous here, because she would often come to Frozen Sword City to inquire about Chen Zhang. Also, Icewind Valley was close in proximity, and she would sometimes also do some good deeds on the way there and back. Plus she had such dazzling white hair as well as stunning appearance, with thunder-like violence and wind-like swiftness, it would not be hard to imagine for her not to be this famous. Chen Zhang was currently in disguise, these people didn't recognize him and he too didn't reveal his name. He feared if he revealed his whereabouts, he would provoke unnecessary trouble. Chen Zhang and Leng Yulin followed a man and from a cave entered the mine. Inside there were many tunnels, which could also play a protective role. Chen Shang and Leng Yulan arrived at a very bright stone room where they saw a middle-aged with pale complexion. With one glance, anyone could tell he was injured. Dan Yuan? Chen Shang asked, as that middle-aged man nodded his head in response. Prior to coming here, Chen Shang had already learned from Elder Tan that the protector of the mine was a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist called Dan Yuan. However, now that he was injured, Chen Shang took out a box with the white jade Dan and handed it over to help Dan Yuan recover. Dan Yuan gratefully said, I just heard some commotion outside. It seems a fight occurred. What happened? Dan Yuan recognized Leng Yulan, furthermore he had already asked the extreme martial sect for help. He knew that someone had arrived to help them. Chen Shang replied, the matter is resolved, but I can't guarantee no one will come again. This matter should be the work of the Devil Yang clan and the Proud Sword sect colluding with each other. I need to inform the inner sect elder and ask them to send more people to resolve this issue. Suddenly, a man ran in and said, Boss Yuan, disciples from the Proud Sword sect have arrived outside. They say they want to talk with you. Dan Yuan was slightly surprised for a moment before speaking, we'll go out. In his eyes, Chen Shang was even stronger than him, otherwise he would not be able to get rid of all those Devil Yang clan disciples. Is the Proud Sword sect people intending to interfere in this matter? Chen Shang asked. Actually, no. As a matter of fact, the Proud Sword sect is in chaos from infighting. They don't have any spare time to manage others. However, one of the leaders of the Proud Sword sect is in collusion with the Devil Yang clan. They have no choice but to come. Although the Proud Sword sect is proud, they don't want to carry the blame of being in collusion with the Devil sect. Leng Yulan replied. Chen Shang and others arrived in a relatively simple hall inside the cave. They saw several people with swords slung around their waists. With their scabbards was covered in gems, shining with a dazzling aura, dressed in gorgeous clothes, with faces full of arrogance. All of them in teens. With just one glance, it was evident they were all Proud Sword sect disciples. Dan Yuan, we meet again. A young man dismissively said. Seeing Dan Yuan arrive, the young man didn't even stand up, and just remained sitting there with an extremely arrogant air. Seeing this, Chen Shang and Leng Yulan were very unhappy. Dan Yuan was also somewhat annoyed, but he often dealt with the Proud Sword sect disciples, so he had long become accustomed to it. Leng Yulan, that young man suddenly saw the white-haired beauty behind Dan Yuan, and could not help but exclaim. Gan Jujian, what are you doing here? Leng Yulan coldly replied with a cold look. It was crystal clear she held a very offensive stance against this young man called Gan Jujian. Chen Shang sized up that Gan Jujian, although he was handsome, his level arrogance would make others find him disgusting. Gan Jujian didn't pay any attention to Chen Shang because he currently looked like an ordinary middle-aged man. Currently, all of Gan Jujian's attention was on Leng Yulan's body. The other 4 Proud Sword sect disciples were also doing the same. Although the hall was simple, it was still brightly lit. It was not hard to see Leng Yulan was very unhappy. She didn't like anyone looking at her so unscrupulously. Of course, Chen Shang was an exception. Worthy of the famous heroine's reputation, you managed to deal with more than 100 Devil Yang clan disciples. Gan Jujian said. A sliver of surprise flashed through his eyes. All of them believed that it was all because of Leng Yulan. Gan Jujian, did you just come here just to speak bullshit? I find you disgusting. Now that you are finished with shitting, get out. Leng Yulan didn't give any face to Gan Jujian and loudly shouted. This made Chen Shang secretly laugh. Leng Yulan's acting style was very bold. Even in her speech she was extremely rude. Gan Jujian was shocked for a moment. His complexion became very ugly. Afterwards, he looked at Dan Yuan and said, Dan Yuan, I'm also not going to be long-winded. Although Leng Yulan helped you divert this crisis, the Devil Yang clan had still not laid down their weapons. As long as you are willing to share this mine together with us, we, the Proud Sword sect, will guarantee your safety. Chapter 209, Identity Exposed. Chapter 209 Identity Exposed. Chen Shang and the others immediately frowned. The Proud Sword sect gave them a bare-naked threat. Just as Dan Yuan was about to refuse, he heard Chen Shang coldly shout, absolutely not. Gan Jujian looked at Chen Shang and sneered, where did this minin come from? Can't you see we're talking? Who allowed this kind of lowly guy to interrupt? Gan Jujian just spoke till here before his complexion underwent a rapid change. Chen Shang had suddenly disappeared. Although Gan Jujian's response was pretty quick, he was still slow by a beat and a gust of wind flew past him as everyone clearly heard the sound of a sharp slap followed almost instantly by another. Chen Shang had just ruthlessly slapped and then backhanded Gan Jujian. Gan Jujian's cheeks were numb from the pain as he flew out of the chair. While blood appeared from the corner of his mouth, Chen Shang started off with a very heavy hand. You. Gan Jujian was speechless. In the blink of an eye someone had given him 2 slaps in the face. If his opponent wished, he could cut off his head instead in the blink of an eye. This kind of strength was beyond his by an extremely large margin. I'll fight to the death with you. Our proud sword sect disciples absolutely cannot be insulted. Gan Jujian suddenly retreated a few steps, his face was brimming with anger. At this point, he slowly pulled out a long sword shining in cold light from that dazzling scabbard. Once the sword was out of the scabbard, slaughter chi suddenly filled that small hall, making everyone extremely scared. Proud blood sword, ranked first in 7th level spirit weapons. Leng Yulin exclaimed, as she hurried to Chen Zhang's side. Gan Jujian saw Leng Yulin and Chen Shang acting pretty intimate and became even more angry. Gan Jujian sneered and said, let's finish this one and for all. 4th level true martial realm. Chen Shang coldly said. Correct, I'm in 4th level of the true martial realm, and only 25 years old this year. Gan Jujian proudly replied. Yulin, you step back, I'll take on this guy. Let him know that there's always someone better than you. Chen Shang raised the corner of his mouth, as a smirk appeared on his face. Humph. Gan Jujian snorted, I admit you're somewhat better than me, but if I use this sword, you'll definitely be defeated. Leng Yulin was a little worried, however, she still withdrew. In this small hall there were a lot of people present. All of them were secretly curious why Leng Yulin, from Icewind Valley, had such an intimate relations with someone from the extreme martial sect considering the distance between the two. Gan Jujian brandished his sword and took a step forward, arriving in front of Chen Shang. The proud blood sword in Gan Jujian hand released a piercing slaughter chi as it flew down like a thunderbolt towards Chen Shang. The instant the electric light shone, with scattering sparks. Everyone only heard Chen Shang utter a contemptuous sneer, before the sudden appearance of an azure aura that sculled across that proud blood sword shining with a cold light. Dang! With a brittle sound, the proud blood sword split in 2 to everyone's shock. At the same time, a true chi filled with majesty enshrouded the little hall. A golden aura burst out from Chen Zhang's left fist, and an even more overbearing and terrifying chi aura burst out. Chen Zhang's left fist was like a golden dragon, strict and solemn, with a soaring dominating aura. Dragon Aura Fist. Chen Shang once again casted the dragon martial technique, although this kind of dragon martial technique was a low-rank one in the eyes of his teacher, Huang Jishan, it was still extremely overbearing. After Chen Shang broke Gan Jujian's pride, the proud blood sword with a blade strike, he instantly jabbed a Dragon Aura Fist towards Gan Jujian. Once the Dragon Aura Fist was released, it was like a mad dragon roaring at the heavens. It was extremely frightening, it shone with an imposing aura, which made those onlookers drown in fear. Puff! Blood sprayed out from Gan Jujian's mouth like an arrow, as the violent fist struck on his body. He suddenly shot back, heavily colliding with the stone wall behind him, creating a human crater. The proud blood sword was cut apart while it wasn't even clear whether the victim of Chen Zhang's punch was alive or dead. Chen Zhang's strength deeply shocked those disciples from the proud sword sect. Leng Yulin's pretty eyes were also wide open from shock. In surprise she looked at that tall figure of Chen Shang. She had always been conceited about her own strength compared with Chen Zhang's, but now she realized there was still some distance between her and her brother. At least she could not so casually defeat the most youngest genius of the proud sword sect. You are Chen Shang. Gan Jujian laid on the ground while constantly spewing blood, and, with a look of dismay, stared at the domineering and mighty azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in Chen Zhang's hand. That threatening azure dragon on the blade's body made him breathless with fear. A moment ago, he felt as if he was attacked by an angry dragon. This guy turned out to be Chen Shang. Not only were the disciples of the proud sword sect alarmed, even those people from the extreme martial sect were extremely surprised. All of them had a shocked and respectful expression in their eyes as they looked at Chen Shang. Your intelligence is not bad, but you have too little practical experience. Too impetuous, and far too proud. Your sect is also the same, and because of that it's fading away. Take this and leave. The next time I see you, I hope you'll bring along someone with some ability. Chen Shang threw a box with white jade dan to Gan Jujian. Chen Shang was recognized as the youngest expert of the extreme martial sect. While only in his early 20s, he had done a lot of earth-shattering things. Many forces had offered a tremendous reward for him. To be exact, a total of 10 million crystal stones. Not to mention, he was also a level 4 alchemist. The proud sword sect disciples mainly used swords, and if they didn't have their swords, they would be significantly weaker. That's why after Chen Shang broke Gan Jujian's sword, he was completely spiritless, and taking advantage of that moment, Chen Shang blasted a fist, heavily wounding Gan Jujian. However, when Chen Shang attacked, he still had a sense of proportion. Otherwise, Gang Jujian would already been crippled. Go back and tell your proud sword sect's higher executives to never threaten our extreme martial sect again. My extreme martial sect isn't afraid to break relations with another sect, and if you don't want my extreme martial sect to intervene in your proud sword sect internal conflicts, get rid of that northern guy who's colluding with the devil sect as soon as is possible. Chen Shang coldly said. It looked as if he was same as a top official from the extreme martial sect, whether his imposing manner or his tone, all were very much like those top figures. That was natural, after all, he was the young martial uncle of the 3 tycoons of the extreme martial sect. He would frequently put on airs in front of those tycoons, although he did so in secret. Gan Jujian crushed that white jade dan box that Chen Shang had offered. Gan Jujian clenched his teeth and said, Chen Shang, Gan Jujian, will not rest until you're dead. Let's go. The proud sword sect disciples supported Gan Jujian, picked up that fragmented sword, and hastily left. Humph, he doesn't know what's good for him. Lang Yulan lightly snorted and said. Afterwards, she looked at the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in Chen Zhang's hand. That giant blade was Chen Zhang's signature weapon, it was known to be more formidable than any spirit weapon. Brother, your blade is very formidable. Can you let me take a look? Lang Yulan curiously asked. It was a brilliant level equipment, that was rare commodity even for the extreme state martial artists. Chen Shang chuckled and handed the blade over. As soon as Lang Yulan grabbed the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, she suddenly let out a tender shout. She almost could not keep it from falling down onto the ground because it was too heavy. In Chen Zhang's hands, it was tens of thousands of jin in weight, while in anyone else's, it was even more heavy, at least hundreds of thousands of jin. Lang Yulan still could not raise the blade, and after looking at it for a while, she handed it back to Chen Shang. She knew he often used this blade to kill every enemy around him. Such a heavy equipment was actually used so nimbly by Chen Shang, this made Lang Yulan secretly admire him even more. Dan Yuan and others were completely speechless. Just a moment ago, they heard Lang Yulan call Chen Shang brother, and soon realized Chen Shang and Lang Yulan were sworn brother and sister. What made them more surprised was the fact that these pair of sworn siblings were both equally abnormal. At such a young age, their strength alone was shocking enough. Senior brother Dan, the extreme martial sect cannot show any weakness. The dean will definitely not blame me for the way I acted a moment ago. Wait for me to go back, I'll make the sect send more people. Chen Shang said. Chapter 210. White Dragon Blood. Chapter 210 White Dragon Blood. Dan Yuan felt extremely ashamed. He was a 5th level true martial realm martial artist, however, he was still in awe from Chen Zhang's strength. Dan Yuan now understood why Chen Shang had stirred up so much trouble and was a center of mayhem. All 10 million crystal stones were offered because of him being so unscrupulous. Junior brother, I know this. The proud sword sect are a bunch of softies. Although they are extremely proud, they only know how to boast. Dan Yuan said, he have been staying here for many years, in regards to proud sword sect he had deep understanding. After dealing with the Devil Yang clan, Chen Shang didn't immediately leave, he was still waiting for Dan Yuan to recover, only then he would leave. This would thwart the mine from being attacked again. Although they were living in a cave, Lang Yulan didn't mind at all. She had a strong ability to survive alone, which was partially why she didn't detest such an environment like other girls. Not to mention, she would be able to stick around her brother all day, this was what made her the most happy. Brother, the fruit you gave me is truly formidable. I haven't finished refining it yet. Lang Yulan was lying in Chen Zhang's arms, she extremely liked this comfortable feeling. Chen Shang also liked cuddling her, and stroking her soft beautiful white hair. Chen Shang laughed and said, you being able to refine in such a way is even more formidable. Oh, that's right. Yulan, do you want to know how I taught a lesson to that crown prince after you left? I do, Lang Yulan excitedly replied. Although she had heard a little bit regarding the secular world, the information wasn't that detailed. Chen Shang very patiently narrated the shocking things he had done after Lang Yulan left. He believed that as an elder brother, he must erect a tall and powerful image in his sister's eyes. This would also help avoid Leng Yulan always thinking she was stronger than him. The talk went on till night, and Leng Yulan still didn't leave. Chen Xiang laid on the bed with her arm around him. She had a sweet smile while listening Chen Zhang's bragging. As time went by, Leng Yulan eventually fell asleep beside Chen Xiang. Seeing that sweet smile on Leng Yulan, Chen Xiang quietly gave her a kiss on her cheek. My dear brother, from the start you received her as your sister with evil intentions. Su Meiyao tenderly spat. Bai Yuyu's cold scoldings followed right after. Go away, don't let your thoughts wander. Chen Xiang said. TCH, you're embracing her while lying on a bed, and you don't want others' thoughts wander in wrong direction. Su Meiyao clicked her tongue, and retorted. Exactly, you are so close to a girl in the same bed. It is truly despicable, humph. Bai Yuyu coldly snorted. Chen Xiang mischievously smiled and said, you two are just jealous. Every day, you look at me bathing and I've not said a word. Now that I'm together with my sworn sister, why are scolding me for nothing? Who looks at you? Su Meiyao shyly retorted. However, her voice was very low, and Bai Yuyu also stopped speaking. Chen Xiang mischievously laughed. You've seen me without clothes, and I've also seen you naked. It's almost like we are in a relationship, right? Hey, I don't want other people's thoughts to wander in wrong way. Especially you, you've peeped upon me when I'm naked hundreds upon thousands of times. Humph. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu both tenderly snorted at the same time. When it came to this point, they could not wait to find a hole and hide their heads. Originally, they didn't intend to let Chen Xiang know they have been peeping on him. Who could expect that woke up Chen Xiang at last moment, and overheard their conversation. Only through this stroke of luck was he able to learn their shameful matter. Chen Xiang started proudly laughing. Chen Xiang, I too have frequently seen you bathing. You don't look good at all, and neither do you have the same attractiveness as when the two sisters are changing clothes. Long Shui interrupted. This made Chen Zhang's complexion suddenly turned green. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both even more speechless. They obviously knew Long Shui's divine sense was extremely strong. It had even been able to penetrate inside the ring and see them after all. Although they were seen by a little girl, in their heart they were more or less somewhat uncomfortable. Truly proximity to pitch makes you black. Sister Meiyao, Sister Yuyu, look what you've done. You've even taught bad things to this little girl. Chen Xiang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. TLN. Different environments provide different influence. Long Shui laughed and said, Chen Xiang, I want to touch your sister's white hair, can I? Regarding Leng Yulan having such bizarre white hair, Chen Xiang had no explanation. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu also had none. Okay, you better not let her see you. Chen Xiang said. What if she sees me? I'm so cute, I won't frighten her. Long Shui tenderly snorted, before a white light rushed out from Chen Zhang's arm. Once the white light faded, Long Shui, this tender and cute little girl, appeared beside the bed. Anyone who saw her would think of her as nothing more than an adorable and pure little girl. That impression was further solidified with her being garbed in a pure white dress. Chen Xiang immediately extended his hand over and ruthlessly pinched her face. With a wide grin on his face, he said, little girl, you should come out more and let me pinch you. Otherwise, these cute little cheeks of yours would exist in vain. Long Shui glared at Chen Xiang with an aggrieved look on her adorable face. With her jade-like hands, she slapped Chen Zhang's hands away. Afterwards, like a child had seen her favorite toy, she very fondly stroked Leng Yulan's white hair. Long Shui was acting like it was her most beloved doll. Chen Xiang was secretly astonished upon seeing this. He didn't expect Long Shui, who only appeared to like eating and being naughty, to also like stroking the hair of beautiful girls. Little dragoness, why are you so fascinated with stroking her hair? Chen Xiang ruthlessly pinched her cute little cheeks, which made her jabber a series of curses. Long Shui suddenly turned into a white flash, before reappearing once again. This way, she broke free from Chen Zhang's grasp. Her little cheeks had already turned red. How can you bully a little girl, you scoundrel? Long Shui tenderly cursed. Little dragoness, you've caused me so much trouble. I'm already being lenient, or else I would have spanked your little ass until it was swollen. Chen Xiang said with a pleasant smile on his face. Humph, are you willing to spank me? I know you can't bear to beat me. Long Shui stuck out her tongue towards him, and then once again vivaciously went over to Leng Yulan to stroke her snow-white hair. Leng Yulan was sound asleep. In these past 2 months, she had kept her nerves taut while living alone deep in the forest. Only today, when she laid down beside Chen Shang, was she able to fully relax and sleep soundly. Long Shui whispered, "She truly has inherited the white dragon's blood. She's from the same vein as me." Her words gave a pretty big shock to Chen Shang, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu. In Leng Yulin's veins, there was actually dragon blood flowing. What did it mean? Could it be that either her mother or her father was a dragon? Was one of her parents a dragon? Chen Shang asked. A human and dragon marrying one another, and giving birth was only heard of in legends. Long Shui shook her head and said, "I don't know, the white dragon blood in her body is very, very thin. It should be from one of her ancestors, probably from a very long time ago. At the time when she was born, that thin white dragon blood might have been expressed itself in her head, which is why she has this kind of soft white hair." While speaking, Long Shui took out a pair of scissors from God knows where. She grabbed a few strands of Leng Yulin's white hair and tried to cut them off. Chen Shang didn't stop Long Shui, but very soon a strange scene appeared before his eyes. Long Shui was actually not able to cut off those strands of white hair. That's confirmed it. She definitely has inherited blood from the same vein as me. Although the white dragon blood in her is thin, as her strength elevates, it will also grow slowly. She would need to absorb a lot of power, but at that time she possessed strong body similar to that of a dragon. Long Shui kissed the beautiful cheek of Leng Yulin before transforming into a white flash and returning to Chen Zhang's arm. Although dragons were born without a body and just spirit, there was still a very minuscule small amount of dragon blood inside their spirits. It would be like mist that filled spirit. Through hereditary memories, the spirit would then start taking in a large amount of spirit chi to create a body that was strong enough for the dragonling to break their shell. That was what Long Shui once informed to Chen Shang. Chapter 211. Emperor Crystal. Chapter 211 Emperor Crystal. Chen Shang stroked Leng Yulin's white hair and marveled over and over in his heart. He didn't expect his own sworn sister to actually possess dragon blood. "Chen Shang, when I came out I sensed something good deep within the mine." Long Shui grinned. Anything Long Shui labeled as good should definitely be something extraordinary. Chen Shang hastily asked, "Do you want me to find it?" Long Shui said with a smug smile, "If you want to get it, you at least need to dig 100 or so zhang. Even then, that does not necessarily mean you'll be able to find it." "What is it?" Chen Shang once again asked. After all, this was just a mine. Beside the crystal stones, what could possibly be here? "Emperor Crystal," Bai Yuyu and Su Meiyao both said in unison. After Chen Shang heard these two words, he literally jumped from shock. The Emperor Crystal was a very special and rare sentient object that had been bred in a vein, and was extremely elusive. Even in legends it has only appeared twice, and its whereabouts were completely unknown until now. The Emperor Crystal's usage mainly lied in the fact that it specialized in determining the location of ores required for making spirit weapons. If one had the Emperor Crystal in their possession, they would easily be able to find crystal stone veins, or various other ores deposits. This ability was something that transcended logical reason. It was heaven-defying. "Quickly fetch it," Chen Shang hastily shouted. He knew Long Shui, this little dragoness, definitely had a way to get it. Only if you give me a building foundation Dan." Long Shui mischievously laughed. "No problem, if it is really the Emperor Crystal, I'll not only give you a building foundation Dan, I'll also add 50 true elemental Dans." Chen Shang very readily agreed. If he had the Emperor Crystal, it would allow him to find some rare ores without a doubt. Considering everything, those would definitely be good to help refine equipment. Long Shui transformed into a white flash, and drilled straight into the earth. Seeing this, Chen Shang secretly clicked his tongue. At the same time something came up in his mind. "Sister Meiyao, if this little dragon can steal things, wouldn't that be great? From now on I need to treat this little girl a bit better. I need to keep her firmly around me, she is a true treasure." Prior to coming here Chen Shang had been planned to go to the Herb King Mountain. However, he still couldn't think of any way to make the Lu family bleed. However, if he allowed Long Shui to loot the Herb King Mountain now, not only would he earn big time, he would also be able to make most of Lu family cough up blood. Long Shui was simply a greedy person, which was the easiest kind of people to deal with. Chen Shang just had to give her some spirit fruits or some building foundation Dans from time to time, and he could make her dead set on following you around. Chen Shang also secretly thought so. Chen Shang waited for a long time. Soon dawn had arrived. Only then did Long Shui emerge from the ground, holding an exquisitely carved, peach-sized crystal. Indeed, this is the Emperor Crystal, Chen Shang said in surprise, before he readily threw a storage pouch to Long Shui. As her divine sense seeped into the storage pouch, she found 2 building foundation dans and 100 true elemental dans inside. She was suddenly extremely happy and quickly handed the Emperor Crystal over to Chen Shang, and then ate those dans with extreme relish. For once, she found Chen Shang very handsome. He was so generous that he even gave her twice the promised reward. Spirit-grade equipments, brilliant-grade equipments, these are magical equipment refined by humans. However, this Emperor Crystal was naturally made by this world. Ordinarily, such things are referred to as a spirit treasure. With such a mystical usage, this Emperor Crystal is definitely a spirit treasure. You need to pour some of your blood on it. Su Meiyao explained. As Chen Zhang's blood fell on that clear Emperor Crystal, it slightly shook and emitted a soft aura. He suddenly felt some kind of mysterious connection with the Emperor Crystal, along with a strange sensation that seemed to come out of nowhere. As he closed his eyes, he could see large pieces of clear crystal stones around him, as if he was standing in the middle of an ocean. The crystal stone mine seemed to be all around him. With the help of Emperor Crystal, he could actually clearly see every piece of ore around him. Chen Shang was excited and extremely happy in his heart. Now that he possessed the Emperor Crystal, not only would he be able to see these hidden crystal stone veins, he could also see ores that could be used for refining equipment. This Emperor Crystal had endless magical effects. This crystal stone mine is really big. Chen Shang grabbed that Emperor Crystal, and closed his eyes. Once again, seas of crystal stones appeared around him. These crystal stones not only had a large amount of spirit chi inside, it was also the currency in circulation in the martial world. There were many other usages as well. Chen Shang had been cautious, as not to awake Leng Yulin. These past 2 months she had been very tired, now only was she able to sleep like a baby. Besides, she was also refining the earth core divine fruit's energy, which made her sink into an even deeper sleep. Although Long Shui was gluttonous, she had just eaten a building foundation dan and 10 true elemental dans. When Chen Shang saw her release a small cute burp, he whispered, "Little dragon, why didn't you stay underground for a little longer? Wouldn't it be even more easier to get those crystal stone?" "Of course I can, but I can't eat those things. That being said, they're still good stuff," Long Shui replied with some irritation. Chen Shang lightly caressed her cheeks, smiled and said, "You can't eat them, but they can be exchanged for many other things that you can." "You little dolt, why do always act like an idiot? Go grab some of them, and I'll help you exchange them for some things to eat." Long Shui shook her head and said, "These crystal stones are scattered all around the place. Even after spending a lot of time, I can only fetch a little bit of it, completely not efficient." Chen Shang said, "Only grab high-quality crystal stones. I'll guide you, specifically grab the top-grade crystal stone." Top-grade and high-grade crystal stones were not in circulation because they were very rare. Generally, they were used in formations and arrays as their quantity was very small. However, the spirit chi in them was in an extremely large quantity, not to mention they were also worth a lot. A high-grade crystal stone could be exchanged for 100 middle-grade crystal stones, while a top-grade one for 10,000 middle-grade crystal stones. The top-grade crystal stone was generally deep inside the vein, and in a very meager amount. Even if one had the vein, the chance of finding it was extremely minuscule. However, with the help of the Emperor Crystal, Chen Shang was clearly able to see there was a relatively large top-grade crystal stone in this vein. "Good," Long Shui promised, and Chen Shang immediately described her the location in detail and made her dive down towards it. This place was already very deep, yet the crystal stones here were very little. Chen Shang guessed that the energy had all been absorbed by the top-grade crystal stone. After 1 hour or so passed, Long Shui finally came back. Long Shui took out a column-like stone glittering in white light from her storage equipment. This was the top-grade crystal stone, with an incomparably rich spirit chi. This chunk of top-grade crystal stone was as big as someone's thigh. Chen Shang hastily grabbed it, and stored it inside his storage pouch. Afterwards, he once again gave a building foundation dan to Long Shui, making this little girl so extremely happy her mouth was bent with smile. Chen Shang estimated this top-grade crystal could be cut into more than 1,000 regular pieces. In short, this single was actually equivalent to 10 million crystal stones. He had once again earned a great fortune. Chen Shang laid on the bed until noon. Leng Yulin remained beside him, still wrapped around his waist and fast asleep. Chen Shang didn't want to wake her up, so continued to stay still. A cold chi suddenly disturbed them, as Leng Yulin was fiercely awakened. She saw Chen Shang beside her, and immediately thought of herself sleeping with Chen Shang for an entire night. She could not help but blush in shame. Brother. Leng Yulin had not even finished her sentence before Chen Shang said in a serious tone, someone's here, and this person is very strong. This cold chi is actually so frightening. Leng Yulin giggled, brother, you do not need to be afraid, it's my Dean. From Xi'an World, Chapter 212, Lu Family's Secret. Chapter 212 Dual Identity. Leng Yulin tidied up her dress, then put on that red armor of hers. While thinking of last night when she was wearing so little and went to sleep with Chen Shang, she slightly lowered her head as her whole face turned red. She didn't dare to look at Chen Shang. Chen Shang originally thought the Dean of the Icewind Valley was mysterious like the Dean of Danxiang Taoyuan. She would never appear in public. However, contrary to his expectations, the Dean actually came here in person, and this caused him and Leng Yulin to both be somewhat surprised. In the end, why did your Dean come here? Chen Shang left the room, following Leng Yulin. At this point, he suddenly felt a little cold, because the Dean continued to release an oppressive cold chi. These powerful figures enjoy acting like this. Not only would this act as showing off, it would also scare others, not to mention it could also play a deterrent role. Through several passages, Chen Shang and the others arrived in a hall. Dan Yuan and the other two true martial realm disciples were also here. Their body was slightly trembling. The walls of this hall were completely covered in frost, and in the seat of honor was a female wearing a black robe, her face covered in white muslin. Although she was wearing a gown, it still could not hide her graceful figure. This female was exactly the Dean of the Icewind Valley. Seeing the Dean, Chen Shang was even more determined that this Dean and Elder Dan were same. They definitely had some kind of secret which they can't allow others to know, otherwise, they would not obscure even their eyes with white light. Although he could not see the Dean's eyes, Chen Shang was pretty sure the Dean was staring at him. This made him feel scared. Are you Chen Shang? Not bad. The Dean's voice was devoid of any emotions, cold as ice. Anyone who heard it would feel completely scared. If the Dean appeared at night, even if she didn't release that oppressive cold chi, she could still scare anyone to death. Dan Yuan and the others were all standing. They didn't dare to sit. The Icewind Valley's Dean suddenly appeared, and even in their dreams, they have not thought of this. However, it also put them at ease. They reckoned that the Icewind Valley's Dean would definitely act and intervene in the matter. Chen Shang was just about to salute, however, he suddenly heard Long Shui's exclaim, isn't this Sister Menger? It must be her, I'm not mistaken. If you don't believe me, you simply have to touch her body. She has fused with the Vermilion Bird Tender Thread, that is the Vermilion Bird divine weapon you have awakened, and it must still have some connection with you. Chen Shang was petrified. The Icewind Valley's Dean was actually the Empress of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. Didn't the Empress use fire? However, the Icewind Valley's Dean has such a powerful ice-cold true chi. So to say, she knew that you might recognize her. That's why she intentionally released cold chi, in order to avoid you sensing the Vermilion Bird Tender Thread. Su Meiyao was also extremely surprised. It seems that this woman is same as your sister. Both of them have the fire and ice vein, and from the cold chi she's releasing, she must have at least fire and ice heavenly vein. Bai Yuyu said. At the time when Leng Yulin went to the extreme martial sect, it was precisely Elder Dan who handed over Leng Yulin to the Icewind Valley's Dean. From this, it was clear that both of them had pretty good relations. She is the Empress of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, and at the same time, she is also the mysterious Dean of the Icewind Valley. This woman is marvelous. Su Meiyao exclaimed. Chen Zhang's state of mind, although it was like a turbulent sea, there was still no change in his expression as he politely said, Brat Chen Shang respectfully greets the Dean. No need to be overly courteous. The Dean coldly said, seeing her being so pretentious. Chen Shang secretly had a good laugh in his heart. He very much wanted to see what kind of expression would she have when he exposed her. At this moment, the Dean stood up and came in front of Chen Shang and coldly asked, why do you have so much scent on you? This is Yulin's. Were you last night together? Chen Shang and Leng Yulin's were suddenly petrified. Dan Yuan and others could not help but be startled. However, they were very soon at ease. Leng Yulin and Chen Shang were a perfect match, and although Chen Shang had received her as his sworn sister at the surface, this kind of means were fairly common, and everyone's thoughts could not help but wander. Lang Yulin was completely embarrassed, the blush on her face reached up to her ears, and now she didn't have that previous domineering bearing, she was truly acting like a girl. Chen Shang knew that the dean was Lu Menger, that was why he was currently extremely calm. He slightly smiled and said, "Last night, she and I slept together, we have not seen each other for many years, while chatting with her we fell asleep, we are brother and sisters, there is no problem." "Humph, what's next? Chen Shang, I would like to have a good talk with you alone." The dean angrily shouted. From her body, a slaughter chi broke out, however, what made her even more surprised was that Chen Shang was still composed, there was not even a single trace of fear on his face. She could not help but admire Chen Zhang's state of mind. "Dean, we really didn't do anything, these past 2 months. You don't need to speak anymore, wait here for me." Chen Shang, along with the dean, came to a stone room. In his heart, he was elated, although he didn't know why the dean sought him alone to talk, he could expose her here without any scruples. With both hands behind her back, the dean looked at some murals on the wall while Chen Shang stood behind her. "Chen Shang, you have big guts. You actually dared to touch a disciple of my Icewind Valley, I advise you." She failed to continue her speech as Chen Shang suddenly interrupted her. With a mischievous laugh, Chen Shang said, "Sister Menger, you have been well since our last meeting." The dean's tender body suddenly trembled, however, she suddenly got angry as she shouted, "What are you saying? Don't interrupt me." Suddenly, Long Shui posed as Chen Shang and spoke with a sinister laughter, "Sister Menger, I've already seen the snow-white rabbits on your chest, you don't need to pretend anymore." Chen Zhang's words once again made the dean's body quiver, she turned around and tenderly shouted, "Don't ever speak of this again, and you're not allowed to talk about this with others." Chen Shang didn't expect Long Shui to actually be so vicious, she directly poked Lu Menger's sore spot, however, he also didn't blame Long Shui. Hey, however, I felt Elder Dan's rabbits were a little bigger than yours, a bit whiter too." Chen Shang continued to laugh, and Lu Menger, who was putting on airs just a moment ago, was now completely speechless. Lu Menger softly harrumphed as she took her muslin off, revealing her elegant and peerless face. Looking at her mature, tender and beautiful face, Chen Shang couldn't help but start laughing in a mocking tone. "Humph." Lu Menger stamped her foot and said in a tender voice, "Elder Dan will never let you see her figure. How do you know hers are bigger than mine? Whiter than mine? Did she let you have a look?" Previously, she was a dean capable of releasing an oppressive cold chi, but now she was like an angry little girl, she would only complete forfeit that aloof-like imposing manner and majestic aura of hers in front of Chen Shang. "She indeed let me have a glance." Chen Shang sat on the chair with his legs crossed, a proud grin was written on his face. Lu Menger was exposed by Chen Shang, and in her heart, she was ashamed and furious. However, she also didn't have any way to grab a hold of Chen Shang. With a soft snort, she said, "Nonsense, which woman would casually allow others to look there?" Chen Shang happily laughed and said, "Sister Menger, didn't you let me have a look? At that time, I felt very shy." Lu Menger nibbled her lips and indignantly looked at Chen Shang as two charming blush surfaced on her cheeks. This different kind of fascinating beauty made Chen Shang praise over and over in his heart. "Right, Sister Menger, you seem to be very much concerned about who has bigger and whiter rabbits." Chen Shang laughed even more happily, while on the other hand, Lu Menger tenderly snorted again and again in anger. "Chen Shang, you know that I can use my true chi. If you bully me again, I will not let it slide." Lu Menger rebuked with a pout, looking extremely attractive, once again making Chen Shang absent-minded. Chapter 213, The Divine Weapon Sect in the Icewind Valley. Chapter 213, The Divine Weapon Sect in the Icewind Valley. Chen Shang scratched his head, laughed and said, "I'd like to take a look how you won't let me slide." While speaking, Chen Shang unscrupulously pointed at Lu Menger's voluptuous rabbits. Lu Menger angrily stomped her lotus-like foot and tenderly snorted. She indeed didn't have any way to grab a hold of Chen Shang. She found herself not being able to act ruthlessly against Chen Shang. She had lived for so long, and it was only now that she had encountered such a situation. Chen Shang rubbed his chin and said, "Sister Menger, aren't you just jealous? Actually, you are forbidding me to get close to Yulin. Hey, in the end, what is in your heart? You yourself don't have any good intentions. On the surface, you have taken her as your sister, but now you, humph. Lu Menger softly said. "Sister Menger, you're thinking too much." Chen Shang laughed. Lu Menjie sat on a chair beside Chen Shang and seriously said, Yulin, this girl is very wild. If she follows you, the mess she will create will be no less than yours. She and you are very different, she needs to cultivate with calm heart, otherwise, in a few years, she will not be able to survive. In a few years, what is going to happen? Chen Shang asked while pretending to be surprised. He had already guessed that it was about the great battle of the three realms. Indeed, Lu Menjie spoke of the very same matter with a very solemn look. According to words passed down by the founder of the Divine Weapon sect a long time ago, in a few years, a catastrophe will befall on the world. Currently, not only your extreme martial sect is doing preparation, all of the factions of the Chenwu mainland are doing the same, even those devil path sects are starting to snatch the resources. That's why don't bother Yulin. Her foundation is very good, in a few years, she will certainly have decent strength, and she will be able to survive under the catastrophe. Chen Shang nodded his head as he took out 3 pieces of the earth core divine fruit and gave it to Lu Menjie. After Lu Menjie saw this, her pretty eyes suddenly glittered intermittently. She could see that these fruits were very valuable. 1 piece for you, 2 for Shenxian. Don't eat now, wait till you go back before you eat it. Why only a piece for me? Unfair, Lu Menjie said with a tender snort. Chen Shang looked at Lu Menjie's chest, mischievously laughed and said, Shenxian is my wife, of course I'm going to be biased. Besides, you're not even my girlfriend. The only reason I gave you 1 piece is completely because of seeing your beautiful rabbits, haha. Lu Menjie's face turned red again as she said in a soft voice, I already said that you can't mention it again. While speaking, she stretched out her jade-like hands like a lightning bolt, knocked on Chen Zhang's head, striking it very lightly. But in her heart, she was quite reluctant to attack. After Lu Menjie received the 3 pieces of the earth core divine fruit, Chen Shang once again laughed and said, don't steal and eat, I'll ask Shenxian. Don't you trust me? Lu Menjie said with a soft snort. I'm your wife's teacher, you're being rude to me again and again. I haven't even said a word to you. Chen Shang pursed his lips and retorted, after all the things I've done, am I still treated as an outsider? Didn't I help you turn that piece of ribbon on your chest into a divine weapon? Speaking of the vermilion bird tender thread, Lu Menjie indeed felt very grateful to Chen Shang. It had now turned into her own divine weapon. Now that it was connected with her blood and flesh, she felt a lot stronger now. Chen Shang asked, Sister Menjie, what is your relation with Elder Dan? Why are you dressed up as the Icewind Valley's dean? I have nothing to do with her. From the ancient times, the Icewind Valley's dean has always been like this. It is also under the control of the Divine Weapon Sect's dean. I've changed the Divine Weapon Sect into the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire for better management, and it also allows me to have some time to stay in the Icewind Valley. Lu Menjie replied, now that Chen Shang have seen through her, she no longer kept her facade. For Chen Shang, she had a kind of indescribable trust. Perhaps it was because she knew Chen Shang had a lot of secrets, and Chen Shang was also the same, he too trusted Lu Menjie. Aren't you tired of running back and forth? After knowing the secrets of the Divine Weapon Sect in the Icewind Valley, Chen Shang was secretly shocked. There is an ancient teleportation array between the Icewind Valley and the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. It only needs some crystal stones to activate the array and I can come and go in the blink of an eye to the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. Don't even speak of this to anyone else. Lu Menjie exhorted. I know, I'm starting to wonder if Elder Dan also has another identity, maybe she is the Dean of Danxiang Taoyuan. Chen Shang rubbed his chin while pondering deeply. Lu Menjie frowned and said, I also have the very same suspicion. Honestly, the Dean of the Danxiang Taoyuan is as mysterious as my Icewind Valley's Dean identity. Last time I said my alchemy techniques are taught by the Danxiang Taoyuan's Dean, she, at that time, was pretty certain I was not speaking the truth. Chen Shang said, it seems that after I return, I have to ask her. Lu Menjie was slightly shocked, and after a while, she asked, your alchemy techniques aren't they taught to you by Elder Dan? Chen Shang smiled and said, nope, it's someone else, this is my confidential secret. Humph, right, you seem to have pretty good relation with Elder Dan. Before you've said you've seen her. Lu Menjie, at this moment, couldn't speak any further, she suddenly found herself very intrigued about this matter. Fooled you, ha ha. Chen Shang started laughing. Lu Menjie gritted her teeth and said, you quickly return to the extreme martial sect. The Devil Path sect's guys will not sit still. Several big sects are squeezed in just one province, they are lacking resources, and in order to cope with the oncoming storm, they are now plundering the resources everywhere. The matter here, just leave it to me. Thanks a lot, Sister Menger. Chen Shang smiled and said. Lu Menger angrily said, you yourself have said a moment ago that I shouldn't treat you as an outsider, the Devil Path sect and the Righteous sect might be in conflict, and you ought to be careful. Don't wander around. And, from now on, you cannot take Yulin to wander everywhere, don't just think about yourself, you have to think for her too. Also, don't go womanizing everywhere, you already have Yulin and Shenxian, aren't these two girls enough for you? In Lu Menger's eyes, Leng Yulin had already become Chen Zhang's woman, even if their current relationship was that of brother and sister. Chen Shang pursed his lips and said, like this together with you now, doesn't it count as womanizing? Of course it doesn't. You, stinking brat is truly, humph. Lu Menger was speechless, as long as she was with Chen Shang, her pace would always get swept, and she would always have to suffer a loss. Hey, Shenxian and Yulin, although both are very close to me, I haven't seen their rabbits but Sister Menger. Ha. Chen Shang finished speaking and quickly ran out of the stone room, he only heard Lu Menger curse again and again. Lu Menger hastily covered her face with the mask and chased Chen Shang. She arrived behind Chen Shang and twisted his arm for a while. Afterwards, she said in a low voice, don't tell Yulin about my true identity. TLN. Last time we used muslin on Lu Menger's face, actually it should be mask, sorry for the mistake. Give me a kiss, I'll promise you. Chen Shang mischievously laughed and said. Smelly brat, one day, I'll make you look good. Lu Menger gritted her teeth and said. Arriving at the hall, Leng Yulin quickly walked beside Chen Shang. After seeing the grin on Chen Zhang's face, she heaved a deep sigh. At this time, Lu Menger once again released the cold qi, and compared to before, it was even colder, it was evident that she was angry. Yulin, quickly return to the Icewind Valley, there are important things to announce. Lu Menger coldly said. Chapter 214, Ungrateful. Chapter 214 Ungrateful. I finally had the time to do the sponsored chapter, and I believe that I have almost covered all the chapters missed this month. This chapter is sponsored by Zect, Tujin Li and Michael La. Thank for your support. Dean. Leng Yulin was somewhat reluctant, she came to Chen Shang and said, Brother, it seems I can't accompany you to wander the world, however, there will be opportunities. Chen Shang touched those beautiful and soft white hair of hers and hugged her as he smiled and said, you have to cultivate with all your efforts and elevate your strength. Next time we meet, I'll definitely test your strength. Leng Yulin nodded her head. At this moment, Chen Shang moved his face closer to her cheeks and whispered in her ear, Yulin, if the dean dares to be violent to you, you just have to say rabbits, and she will definitely not dare to do anything to you. Rabbits. Leng Yulin felt doubtful, however, she still nodded her head. Lu Menger was a Nirvana realm martial artist, and obviously, she heard what Chen Shang spoke. Her tender body slightly trembled in anger, she secretly clenched her teeth. Shenxian was her only disciple, and was also Chen Zhang's wife, besides Leng Yulin could also be counted as her disciple. Although she was Chen Zhang's sworn sister, but now looking at it closely, their relationship was not that simple. Leave the things here to me. I'm also friends with Ji Yu Dongchen, this is just a little bit of work for me. Lu Menger said. Although she and Chen Shang have only met for a very short while, Leng Yulin was still very happy. Although she was still somewhat reluctant to part, she was completely satisfied. With a sweet smile on her face, she followed Lu Menger and left. This made Lu Menger somewhat surprised. She knew Leng Yulin was usually cold, sturdy, overbearing and wild, but now it looks like she also had emotions like ordinary girls. At this moment, she couldn't help but think about the time she spent together with Chen Shang, wasn't it also same? Thinking of the various things that happened with Chen Shang, her face turned slightly red, and in her heart, complex feelings were roused. After Lu Menger left with Leng Yulin, Chen Shang continued to stay here, waiting for Dan Yuan to completely recover, only after that could he leave without qualms. After a few days, the Icewind Valley really sent someone, although there were only 20, but all of these 20 were in the true martial realm. After the mine was safe, Chen Shang said goodbye to Dan Yuan and backtracked to the extreme martial sect. While Chen Shang was flying, he was also thinking how to deal with Elder Tan's collusion with the Lu family and the Devil Path sect. He must get rid of this dangerous character. 6 days passed. Chen Shang was currently in the Taoyuan province, flying within the clouds. Because he could not see the beautiful scenery below, he was extremely bored. Just as he wanted to fly lower for some time, a powerful chi suddenly shot into the sky, scattering a large number of clouds. This made him astonished. After paying a close attention, he heard sounds of fighting, and to his surprise, someone was fighting below. Chen Shang hid above the clouds and flew to a remote place. He landed on a high mountain and observed the ongoing battle, only to see many black-robed people besieging a team of white-robed people. Aren't they the disciples of the Danxiang Taoyuan? Are those black-robed people devil path martial artists? Chen Shang said with uncertainty. He glided down from the top of that high mountain and took out a sword. Those black-robed people were holding bizarre weapons, and their true chi was also very bizarre and evil. After getting closer, Chen Shang was certain that they were devil path martial artists. Not only were they attacking the disciples of Danxiang Taoyuan, there were also the true martial sects and the beast martial sect's disciples. The extreme martial sect always had very good relations with the Danxiang Taoyuan, they never had any kind of conflict. Obviously, Chen Shang was going to save them since they were currently in a very unfavorable situation. They were surrounded by many devil path martial artists, and those devil path martial artists were stronger than them. There are actually 2/3 level of the true martial realm martial artists, and it seems the devil path disciples are really desperate. Chen Shang took out the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade. If he didn't use this divine blade, he could not easily resolve this. Besides, he also had to be wary of those true martial sects and the beast martial sect's disciples. As he poured the Azure Dragon true chi into the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade, a suffocating aura suddenly flowed out. Chen Shang brandished this domineering broadsword and rushed into the crowd, slashed down a blade strike, and drew an azure bright arc form, which emitted shoo-shoo sounds. This one strike instantly beheaded 10th level mortal martial realm martial artists. Chen Shang immediately released a chi screen. This was the Black Tortoise Luo Tian cover. With this, he could have a very solid defense. Along with this invisible chi cover, those lacking in strength could not approach him. They would all feel as if they were subjected to the impact of tyrannical waves. The Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples, after seeing someone came to help, immediately discovered that the weapon their savior used was somewhat familiar to them. They realized that it was the treasured weapon used by Chen Shang they had heard of, making them feel relieved. When Chen Shang had arrived, he neatly and quickly beheaded tens of 10th level mortal martial realm martial artists. Chen Zhang's slaughtering heart started beating, absorbing a large number of vicious chi, and releasing an intense slaughter chi continuously at the same time, scaring the heart and guts of those devil path martial artists, as if they have encountered a devil god incarnate. Chen Zhang's blade was like a thunderbolt that madly danced, killing off those devil path martial artists as they suffered crushing defeat, blasting them into pieces. In blink of an eye, only 2/3 level true martial realm devil path martial artists were left. Chen Shang, our transforming bone clan will not let you off. A single-eyed man said while blasting a palm at the tall and thin young man beside him. The palm landed on that thin body with a frightening force, making the tall and thin young man flew towards Chen Shang. While letting out aggrieved screams, his body turned into poisonous black water and spattered towards Chen Shang. Chen Shang just stepped sideways and dodged. He didn't expect that the devil path martial artist would actually be so ruthless, sacrificing his own companion to escape. That single-eyed man thought he could delay Chen Shang for a while, which would allow him to quickly escape. However, before he could run too far, he suddenly felt a suffocating pressure engulfing his body from behind. Chen Shang, while chasing that single-eyed man, waved the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade. With a fierce blade strike chopping downwards, an explosive sound burst out, and that single-eyed man was smashed into pieces. The Danxiang Taoyuans, the true martial sects and the beast martial sect's disciples, after seeing this, could not help but shiver. Just a few moments ago, they had fallen into a bitter struggle. If it continued to go on like that, they would have definitely been annihilated. However, they had not expected Chen Shang to appear, and alone, he had actually beheaded all those transforming Bone Clan's disciples. Is this the strength of the extreme martial sect youngest and strongest martial artist ever? Worth 10 million crystal stones, Chen Shang. A Danxiang Taoyuan's disciple exclaimed. It sure looks like, although his looks seem to be very different, that broadsword is exactly the one I saw on the wanted poster. Another man said. While the Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples were feeling grateful, the true marital sects and beast martial sect's disciples were like bees rushing ahead, holding their weapons with a greedy look. They believed that with so many people, they could certainly grab a hold of Chen Shang, and at that time, they could obtain the 10 million crystal stones along with the treasured blade in Chen Zhang's hand. Ungrateful guys, stop them! A Danxiang Taoyuan's middle-aged man shouted. Holding a long spear, he flew over and didn't hesitate to stab the true martial sect's disciples rushing towards Chen Shang to death. After seeing the skillful display of their leader, the Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples, one by one, also rushed and started fighting against the true martial sects and the beast martial sect's disciples. Danxiang Taoyuan senior and junior brothers, all of you come behind me. Chen Shang shouted. He had a completely solemn and cold expression on his face. Just a moment ago, he had saved the true martial sects and the beast martial sect's disciples, but not only were they ungrateful, they dared to actually attack him. Chapter 215, Act First, Report Later. Chapter 215 Act First, Report Later. After the Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples heard Chen Zhang's shout, they immediately flew over. Although they didn't know what Chen Shang was planning to do, they could figure out he was very impatient from his voice. The true martial sects and the beast martial sect's disciples didn't know what to do after seeing Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples siding with Chen Shang. Originally, they thought that the Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples would attack Chen Shang just like them. Humph, even if I saved a dog, that dog would be wagging its tail towards me. However, you lot don't even give a word of thanks and even attack me, you're all worse than dogs. Chen Shang angrily cursed. So what? A true martial sect disciple who was ignorant of the immensity of heaven and earth shouted. He thought that with so many people on their side, they had already won. Besides, there were also several true martial realm disciples on their side. A sneer appeared on Chen Zhang's face, as raging flames burst out from his body. Afterwards, he flew over to the disciples of the two sects left in front of him. While he flew towards them, a pair of enormous vermilion bird fire wings appeared on his back. At this moment, the wings on Chen Shang's back was very similar to an actual vermilion bird's wings. While those fire wings grew larger and larger, he flew towards those two sects' disciples. In few seconds, Chen Shang ruthlessly struck that group like a large bird of prey. That group of disciples had no time to react before they were struck by the huge fire wings released by Chen Shang. After he pierced through the crowd, the ground was still aflame, long after those disciples had been entirely burned to ashes. This opened the outlook of the Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples. With just one charge, tens of disciples from two major sects were burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. How absolutely frightening this strength was. It was not wrong to call Chen Shang the youngest and strongest martial artist in the history of the extreme martial sect. Friends of Danxiang Taoyuan, I would like to return the extreme martial sect as soon as possible, so I can't accompany you to the fragrant city. Maybe next time, Chen Shang said with a bright laugh. He released that pair of frightening vermilion bird fire wings once again and flew into the sky. His figure disappeared into the white clouds in a matter of seconds. It seems that those rumors discredited Chen Shang. He is not a bad guy at all. One man said. Exactly, he has just offended far too many people. If the opportunity presents itself, I'll definitely drink 2 cups with him. Let's return as soon as possible. The Devil Path guys are getting more and more rampant. Chen Shang returned to the extreme martial sect around the evening time and he immediately went to find Elder Tan. Even though it was pretty late into the evening, Chen Shang was still warmly received by Elder Tan. Seeing Chen Shang came back safely, Elder Tan was extremely surprised in his heart. However, his old face was filled with warm smile. It seems the issues have been resolved. Chen Shang just nodded his head, smiled and said, it was kind of easy, thanks for arranging such an easy mission, Elder Tan. Even the mission given to me was such a high-ranked mission, to be specific, a level 6 mission. I just had to travel for a bit and easily solved it. Elder Tan felt extremely doubtful in his heart, because he knew an ambush from a high-level martial artist was waiting for Chen Shang. But even now, Elder Tan has yet to receive any news from the Frozen Sword City. That's good, Elder Tan smiled and said. Chen Zhang's complexion suddenly turned serious. As he spoke, Elder Tan, during this trip I obtained a good item, but I don't know whether I should turn it in or not. Oh, Elder Tan felt somewhat doubtful. After all, if Chen Shang got something, then why would he still speak about it? I know it's something marvelous, but I just can't seem to tell what it is. Elder Tan has seen and experienced many things, can you help me identify it? Chen Shang asked in a low tone, and took out a fist-sized of top-grade crystal stone, and handed it to Elder Tan. Seeing the stone exuding white light, and that kind of impactful spirit chi in it, Elder Tan immediately recognized it was top-grade crystal stone. This is not top-grade crystal stone, Elder Tan. Use your divine sense to carefully probe it, and you will experience a bizarre feeling. I think this might be the Emperor Crystal. I stole it from a relatively strong Devil Path martial artist, who had entered deep into the extreme martial sect's mine. Chen Shang explained. Emperor Crystal. After Elder Tan heard these two words, he was stunned for a while before he immediately rejoiced and injected his divine sense completely into it. Not to mention the Emperor Crystal, even such a large piece of top-grade crystal was not so easy to see. Yet now it was delivered in his hands by Chen Shang. With this fact alone, any shred of doubt Elder Tan held towards Chen Zhang's actions was completely removed. After Elder Tan poured all his divine sense into the Emperor Crystal, Chen Shang shouted to Long Shui with his divine sense, "Little dragon, I need to borrow your power." Okay. Long Shui immediately agreed. Chen Shang quietly sneaked behind Elder Tan, and immediately took out the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. The instant it came out, he poured his complete universe true chi and the borrowed power from Long Shui into the blade, and cleaved downwards towards Elder Tan. Elder Tan suddenly felt a terrifying power approaching him. He tried to dodge away, but fell somewhat short. That blade, weighing millions of jins, landed squarely on Elder Tan, cleaving him into two. Regarding Elder Tan, Chen Shang didn't plan to tell Ji Yu Dongchen and others from the get-go. Chen Shang would act first, then report later, lest Elder Tan became aware of his incoming doom and try to escape. Afterwards, Chen Shang headed to the extreme martial mysterious realm from Elder Tan's house. Along the way, Chen Shang encountered Wu Kaming and reported to him what happened. He also took out those two maps as evidence, and handed it over to Wu Kaming. After Wu Kaming came to learn about this incident, he was extremely furious. What the hell is happening in the extreme martial sect? One after another, traitors keep popping up. About the mine matter, the Dean and I simply didn't know anything, or else we would have not let you go alone. Anything related to the mine has always been managed by Tan Feng. I didn't expect for him to actually hide it from me. Let's go, we will go find Tan Feng. Wu Kaming said. But there is only his corpse left. Chen Shang enthusiastically smiled. Wu Kaming was startled for a while before saying, "Impossible." While speaking, both of them walked towards Tan Feng's residence. It didn't take too long for them to arrive. After seeing Tan Feng's corpse cut into two by Chen Shang, with almost negligent amount of blood scattered, Wu Kaming could only heave a sigh. He began to suspect whether Chen Shang entered the extreme state or not. He actually had the ability to behead two elders. You leave and rest first. The Icewind Valley's Dean has taken over the matter of Frozen Sword City. We don't need to worry about it. Leave the things here for me to clean up. I'll go talk to the Dean about it later. Wu Kaming said. At this moment, he was feeling rather down because Liu Shang and Tan Feng were personally groomed by Wu Kaming. He had even made them sit in the elder positions, but had not expected things to turn out like this. Chen Shang went to find Yun Xiaodao and the others, but learned that they all went out to do missions. Before, they hated to deal these kinds of things, but now, they had no alternative but to complete the missions because the rewards were irresistible. After Chen Shang returned to his own small abode in the extreme Dan King courtyard, he immediately went to his backyard, and raised his head to look at the azure profound tree, which had already bore 39 fruits. Currently, Elder Dan was sitting under the tree, while looking at the azure profound flower exuding an azure aura in her hand. Haha, these fruits are very beautiful, but none of them are yours. Chen Shang teased. Chapter 216, 4 Devil Techniques. Chapter 216 4 Devil Techniques. Elder Dan stood up and said, I have no shortage of building foundation dans, you refine them yourself and enjoy. Chen Shang smiled and said, that's great. I need a bunch of building foundation dans, little girl, help me gather the materials. 39 azure profound fruits meant he would need to gather 39 set of herbs. He had no shortage of 1,000 vein fruits, metal spirit fruits, auxiliary herbs and monster cores. In the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, he had obtained enough refining materials for 800 building foundation dans. He only asked to see whether Elder Dan really had no shortage of the building foundation dans materials or not. TLN, we would be using monster cores instead of monster dans. Elder Dan shook her head. Last time, I did everything in my power to gather the herbs. It's not like I don't want to help you, but both the metal spirit fruit and the 1,000 vein fruit are both very scarce at the moment. Chen Shang knew Elder Dan wasn't lying. however he had suspicions that Elder Dan was the dean of the Danxiang Taoyuan. Otherwise, how was she able to gather such a large amount of herbs for refining building foundation dans so quickly? Little girl, I'm going to ask you one thing. You need to answer me honestly. Chen Shang said. You are already aware that I have a fire spirit, besides, I have always been good to you. I can choose to answer or not. Elder Dan replied. In her heart, she was also skeptical about what Chen Shang wanted to ask, as he was actually being so serious right now. Chen Shang nodded his head in response and asked, Are you the dean of Danxiang Taoyuan? Elder Dan didn't reply or speak as she looked at Chen Shang. At this time, he was already able to confirm his suspicions, she really was the dean of Danxiang Taoyuan. Nope, I'm not the dean of Danxiang Taoyuan. However, I'm very familiar with her. Elder Dan denied Chen Shang's accusation, however, he was pretty sure about this matter. You're not lying to me. Chen Shang was somewhat skeptical. I did not lie to you. Or do you want me to take an oath? Elder Dan said. Don't. Chen Shang started picking those azure profound fruit, and then said, Little girl, do you find the whereabouts for the materials of the 5-element true elemental Dan? I don't. If I did, I would be first to go and confirm, and buy them for you. Elder Dan said as she sniffed that azure flower. With just a glance, it could easily be seen that she liked this flower very much. Chen Shang laughed and said, Then thanks a lot in advance. Although you acted in such a way to me before, I never hated you. Hey, to tell you the truth, I really want to defeat you as soon as possible. I want to see who you are in the end, and I also want to confirm whether or not what you said about your appearance is true, whether you really are as beautiful as my Shenxian. Elder Dan tenderly snorted, HMPH, then you need to become strong quickly, and not get into any trouble. In a few years, a catastrophe will befall the entire world, and you need to be ready for it, so cultivate seriously. If you want to gather some rare herbs, it's better for you to visit the fragrance city of Danxiang Taoyuan, there is an auction house there. I'm going to enter into closed-door training for a while. After Elder Dan left, Chen Shang muttered, Was this woman waiting for me to come back before she went into closed-door training? I truly can't understand her. Chen Shang also thought it was about time to cultivate peacefully. However, before that, he needed to plant trees. He did not lack 1,000 vein fruits, metal spirit fruits and other materials, however, he was short on azure profound fruits. This was why he was going to plant 2 more of them. He now had golden dragon saliva, which should be able to accelerate the insane growth even further. As long as he refined a few building foundation dans, he was sure he could nurture a bunch of true martial realm martial artists. Of course, it would also bring him huge amount of wealth, and he could then use that money to buy even more precious herbs. The extreme Dan King courtyard was extremely calm, it only had one person present, Chen Shang. As for Wu Qianchen, God knows where Elder Dan sent her, Chen Shang hasn't seen Wu Qianchen for a long time. Now it's time for you to start learning my devil techniques. The 3 heavenly realms will soon converge and you need to learn some powerful martial techniques to make yourself stronger. Bai Yu said. Chen Shang nodded his head, he planned to cultivate during the daytime and congeal the golden dragon saliva during the night. My devil techniques have very high requirements for physical strength, true chi and the divine sense. There are a total of 5 that are appropriate for you, out of which, you have already learned the engulfing devil technique. Next, you are going to learn the transforming bone devil palm, penetrating heart devil eye, grasping soul devil curse and the ice spirit devil aura. Bai Yu spoke while she began passing these devil techniques onto Chen Shang. Using the divine sense to pass technique was not something common. Before, Chen Zhang's master, Huang Jintian, wasn't able to pass on his knowledge in such a way. Chen Shang had read quite some books, however, he still didn't find anything resembling how these 2 sisters passed on their techniques. This was just another thing to add on the list for why he had suspicions that Su Meiyao and Bai Yu were not from the mortal world. Transforming bone devil palm, penetrating heart devil eye, grasping soul devil curse, and ice spirit devil aura. These 4 devil techniques sounded very formidable. Suddenly, a lot of related content retaining to these 4 techniques appeared in Chen Zhang's mind. Regarding these 4 devil techniques, he now had a deep understanding. In the Devil Path sect, there was a powerful force known as the Transforming Bone Clan. They could use their signature martial technique to transform the bones and flesh into poisonous water, and so the Transforming Bone Clan became known for their Transforming Bone Poisonous Palm. However, the transforming bone devil palm Chen Shang just learned was very different from the transforming bone clans. This transforming bone devil palm was not only used to attack humans, it could also be used to attack some very hard materials and reducing them into nothing. If it struck someone, just their bones would be melted away, while their flesh and meridians would still be left untouched. Not only could it be used for close-range melee attack, it could be used to create a powerful long-range chi attack. It was both a good and an evil martial technique. Imagine during a battle, if all the opposite party's bones were melted away, what would that person would turn into? This was exactly why the true chi requirement for this terrifying skill was so high. Penetrating Heart Devil Eye. When Chen Shang heard it, he thought this technique would allow him to see through the thoughts of others. On the contrary, this technique allowed someone to shoot beams through their eyes, specifically, in order to attack other people's heart, directly penetrating through and destroying it. Of course, not only could it be used to attack the heart, it could also be used to attack other organs. It was a kind of devil technique for insidious martial artists, and this made Chen Shang secretly happy. He very much yearned to be an insidious person. During the battle, if someone shot 2 beams of vigorous true chi through their eyes, penetrating the other party's heart, how insidious would that move be? However, this skill had insanely high requirement for true chi and divine sense. You better not let many people know you cultivate the penetrating heart devil eye, otherwise as your enemies might become wary of it. Bai Yu exhorted. She was someone who liked killing, even more so, someone who liked using various different methods to present death to the enemy. Grasping Soul Devil Curse. Chen Shang already knew a little bit about this technique. It was a kind of martial technique that could force someone to speak the truth. The divine sense requirement was very high for this skill. The Grasping Soul Devil Curse could not only control someone's soul to speak the truth, it could also be used to seize the soul and store it. Moreover, it could also be used to control their mind. It too was a very bizarre, powerful, and evil martial technique. Finally, the Ice Spirit Devil Aura. Similar to previous 4 techniques, this too was a very insidious kind of martial technique. What it released was not the true chi, but rather through using ice-cold true chi, it would quickly transform it into an ice-cold divine sense that could be considered an ice spirit. During the battle, silently releasing an ice spirit made of aura chi to attack others, an intangible and colorless sneak attack. After getting hit, though there would be nothing apparently wrong with their body, they would just subconsciously feel extremely cold, as if they have been sealed in ice. This attack caused a great deal of damage to one's spirit. Chen Zhang's foundations were very solid, whether it was true chi or divine sense or his physical strength. This was why he could practice these 4 techniques with twice the result from half the effort. He very easily mastered them. Only after the continuous improvement of various aspects could he use these devil techniques in the most vivid and thorough manner. 10 days passed. In the small courtyard, there was now 2 new azure profound trees. Fortunately, these trees were not very big, otherwise they would not fit in this small courtyard. Chapter 217, Herb King Mountain. Chapter 217 Herb King Mountain. Chen Shang hadn't left the extreme Dan King courtyard for the past 10 days. He wasn't only cultivating the devil techniques, but also irrigating the azure true found trees. He didn't pay attention to outside matters, for he was worried that he would be distracted by them and wander around. However, today someone knocked on the door of the extreme Dan courtyard. According to Elder Dan, no one would dare to knock on the door of the extreme Dan King courtyard. Not even Ji Yu Dongchen or Wu Kaming would do so unless it was extremely important, which was why Chen Shang immediately left to open the door. This was Elder Dan's domain. Not even Ji Yu Dongchen or Wu Kaming would dare to casually come here. After opening the door, Chen Shang saw Wu Kaming. "Little Baldy, what's the matter? Come in first," Chen Shang said. "Nothing big, but it's not something we can ignore. I'm just fine here," Wu Kaming replied. These past 10 days, there have been more and more conflicts between the Devil Path and the righteous martial artists. The grudges between the extreme martial sect and the true martial sect along with the beast martial sect have temporarily been put aside. However, the premise is that the bounty won't be removed. Chen Shang nodded his head. He understood that the righteous sects needed to unite in order to deal with the Devil Path sects. If they were to let these Devil Path sects run amok, there was no need to wait for the catastrophe to arrive, as Chenwu mainland would already be destroyed before that. But we, the extreme martial sect, still haven't agreed to their terms. The dean asked me to let the young martial uncle decide, Wu Kaming said. Whatever, even if they offer 100 million crystal stones, so long as Little Featherhead's statement remains effective, I'm not afraid of anyone. Chen Shang said with an indifferent look. Make Little Featherhead tell those guys, that even if we're to temporarily work together, no matter who it is, if they want to kill me, they should be prepared to pay 10 times over. Wu Kaming replied, rest assured, the Dean and I will make sure that not two strong guys will deal with you. You better be ready, the Devil Path sects and righteous sects are ready to fight, and if so, there will be a need for more moderate methods to resolve this dispute. In order for less casualties on both sides, it is highly likely that some disciples will be sent to have a contest with the opposing Devil Path sects, disciples. After Wu Kaming left, Chen Shang immediately started refining Dan's. He had to enter the third level of the true martial realm as soon as possible. In any case, a fight was inevitable between the righteous and Devil Path sects, it was just a matter of when. Chen Shang had already obtained all the materials for refining the building foundation Dan's. Since he had the 37 azure profound fruits, he would be able to refine it 37 times. With his speed, 3 days would be enough to refine more than 100 building foundation Dan's. In the Chenwu mainland, the one who refined the most building foundation Dan's was probably Chen Shang. Only he possessed so many rare resources. Refining the building foundation Dan's had long become a familiar process, and now it was as easy as a walk in the park. Since the possession of the heavenly sun fire spirit, Chen Zhang's alchemy speed had improved by leaps and bounds. If combined with the brilliant flame dragon furnace, he would be able to quickly refine any low-grade profound level Dan's. After 3 days had passed, he had completely refined all 37 azure profound fruits, however, he had failed 2 times, and was only successful 35 times. That being said, during each refinement 4 Dan's were produced, in addition to the building foundation Dan's he had prior to this, he now had 150 Dan's. After the period of successful refinement, Long Shui clamored Chen Shang for building foundation Dan's. After becoming aware of how formidable Long Shui was, Chen Shang was very generous to her. That being said, he couldn't spoil her too much, so he only ended up giving her 2. After sending off this little greedy dragoness, Chen Shang swallowed 8 building foundation Dan's in one breath, and began to cultivate. As the true qi was being compressed in the 5 divine beast forms, the true element grains shone brightly. When Chen Shang went to deal with the issue with the mine, he had engulfed a 5th level true martial realm Devil Path martial artist. At that time, his true qi had also improved a little. Now that he had so many building foundation Dan's, entering the 3rd level of the true martial realm was no longer a challenge for him. Another 5 days had passed, Chen Shang had completely refined those 8 building foundation Dan's, and now in each beast form 2 extra true element grains had been illuminated, as such a total of 19 grains had been illuminated in each true qi beast form. He was just lacking a total of 5 true element grains, before he could enter the 3rd level of the true martial realm. Now Chen Shang found, that with the increase of the illuminated true element grains, it became more and more difficult to lit up the remaining grains. He required a lot more true qi to compress, before it would be possible to illuminate another true element grain, making the process a lot harder. At night, there was a sudden flash of a fiery light in a mountain forest with relatively strong spirit qi. Large wings made from flames appeared and disappeared not longer after. Chen Shang had flown toward the Herb King Mountain. When he got close enough, he had immediately retracted his vermilion bird fire wings and landed on the ground. The matter about Herb King Mountain's Lu family colluding with the Devil Path sect had still not been found. But once it was found, the various righteous forces would, without any delay, attack. At that time, the Herb King Mountain's resources would be robbed and as such nothing would be left behind. Chen Shang was sure that Herb King Mountain's Lu family would soon find their own matter of colluding with the Devil Path sect brought to light. However, by that time, they would have already escaped with most of the resources. Chen Shang, after thinking of this point, went to the Lu family without any hesitation. The Lu family had once wanted to kill him, how could he just forget about that? Chen Shang, from the information gathered by Zhu Rong, had come to understand what this Herb King Mountain was so famous for. It was precisely because it had a herb garden from a distant past, and this herb garden was very mysterious, as only God knew who created it, but when it had been discovered, the Lu family had sacrificed a lot of geniuses to acquire this herb garden. Chen Shang had also acquired a herb garden, he speculated whether the master of both herb gardens was the same or not. Herb King Mountain, it was no different from any other mountain, it was just that there had once been a lot of precious spirit herbs here and that was the only reason for it to be famous. Furthermore, the spirit chi here was rather rich. The Lu family was established at the top of the Herb King Mountain, and that herb garden was hidden very mysteriously. Even after Zhu Rong's thorough investigation, he still hadn't been able to locate it. Chen Shang took out the Emperor Crystal, before he sensed everything around him, and after not finding anything containing spirit chi, he discharged the conjecture of having a vein present here. The last time when I went to find the herb garden, its location was in a cave within a mountain valley. That's a huge mountainside. Chen Shang looked at the humongous Herb King Mountain. Although there was no mountain valley nearby, there was still a big mountainside. That mountainside could probably accommodate a herb garden. Little dragon, didn't you sense anything? Chen Shang asked. I sense a strange energy, albeit very weak, I can still feel it, it should be a huge array inside that mountainside. Long Shui replied. Chen Shang, in his heart, was elated, he had also guessed the same. Just as he was about to move, Long Shui once again said, there are a lot of people patrolling there, you should be careful. Chen Shang wore a black robe, with a black hood, as he took advantage of the darkness, and hid among the grass. With the help of the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise he converged his breath, making it difficult for others to discover him. Long Shui was also not able to probe any kind of entrance, but he could still sense that there was something inside the mountainside, so Chen Shang started to search around the big mountain for an entrance. Although it was a dark night, Chen Shang cultivated the Azure Dragon Divine exercise, and with it he could see clearly in the night, although everything was azure. Soon, he saw several people lurking in the grass. Although they were in the 10th level of the mortal martial realm, their true chi was very pure, and with very strong muscles, they were all very vigilant, all of them were exceptional masters. Chapter 218, Cleaned Out Everything. Chapter 218 Cleaned Out Everything. Chen Shang didn't kill these people, otherwise it would disturb the others that hid elsewhere. By then, the entire Lu family would be alerted. This time his purpose for coming here was only to empty their pockets. He was sure the Lu family was only able to join the Devil Path sect because they had good resources to provide. Meanwhile, the Lu family wanted to learn devil techniques in order to become more powerful. Devil techniques could allow people to rapidly increase their strength in a short span of time, and allow one to master a stronger power. However, this was obtained through very ruthless means. Some devil techniques needed one to drink human blood, eat human hearts, flesh, among other things. Only then could they be cultivated. Generally, ordinary civilians would have to bear the brunt of this cultivation process, which was why the Devil Path were not tolerated by the general public. Once the Lu family ran out, or lost, their prideful stock of herbs, then the Lu family would be abandoned by the Devil Path sect. By then, the matter about their collusion with the Devil Path sect would come to light, and there would be no need for Chen Shang to personally move his hand, the entire Lu family would be annihilated. As Chen Shang was lurking in the grass around the giant mountain, he finally found a relatively large number of people at the foot of the mountain. There were even 2 second-level true martial realm martial artists there. There were not many true martial realm martial artists in these families, however, 2 of those people were stationed here. It was evident that they were guarding something important. Chen Shang affirmed that the herb garden's entrance was close. If it's the same herb garden you encountered before, it's possible that the Lu family has no way to enter the garden through the true entrance. If it was the true entrance, they wouldn't need to station so many people here. It is highly likely that this entrance was a created one, bypassing the true entrance. Su Meiyao said. Chen Shang nodded his head and continued searching for the true entrance because he still had the key in his possession. Although he was unsure whether it would be useful, there was no harm in trying. Chen Shang looked at a cave with a stone door inside. In the vicinity as well as inside the cave, there were many guards. Although not very strong, every single one of them were very vigilant. If Chen Shang could not find the true entrance, he would have no choice but to enter through this heavily guarded one. When he would have to inevitably act, it would certainly alert the rest of the Lu family. After circling around half the mountain, Chen Shang found a place with very few guards stationed. There were only 1 or 2 occasionally patrolling. It should be here. Chen Shang looked at a cave blocked by many boulders. He immediately went over and probed using his divine sense. There is a freaking gate inside. Chen Shang said in excitement. He then lightly smacked a palm on a boulder. Suddenly, that boulder turned into powder, which was blown away by the wind. This was the transforming bone devil palm. Just a light tap, and that hard boulder was turned into very fine powder. Chen Shang continued to smack a few palms one after another. He opened up a hole near the ground large enough for him to crawl into. After crawling inside, he used the nearby weeds to cover the hole, lest it was discovered by the patrolling guards. Chen Shang arrived at a pitch-black cave. While walking deep into the cave, he took out a piece of shiny stone to illuminate his surroundings. Soon, he came across an iron gate. This gave Chen Shang a very familiar feeling because it was the very same door as the herb garden he found before. He took out the key and inserted into a small opening on the iron gate, and as he turned it, the iron gate gradually opened, but slowly only because Chen Shang exhausted all his power to hold down the iron gate in order to prevent the iron gate causing any sound or a fierce vibration. As the iron gate opened, Chen Shang didn't see a herb garden like he was expecting, but rather a passage in front of him, with a familiar aura coming from its other end. He quickly passed through it and arrived at the end. When he did, he was completely startled and stood there staring as his heart quickly sped up. He was extremely excited because right in front of him was a massive herb garden filled with various rare spirit herbs. The spirit herbs in here were mostly auxiliary herbs. It was evident that not many of them had grown for very long. Beside them were some relatively more expensive herbs, to be precise, herbs required for refining true elemental Dan, white jade Dan or similar high-grade spirit level Dan. There were at least 10 trees of metal spirit tree and 1,000 vein tree above, which the fruits had already matured. However, it seemed the Lu family was reluctant to pick them. Good fellas, isn't that the 5 elements lotus? The main ingredient for refining 5 elements true elemental Dan. Chen Shang exclaimed as he saw a lotus flower at the center of the herb garden with 5 petals, each with different color. This was the 5 elements lotus, or also known as the 5-color lotus. Holy shit, isn't that the 9 sun flame tree? Chen Shang saw a large tree with fiery red leaves. He could not help but exclaim in surprise. Also the fire spirit grass. Chen Shang, after seeing the miniature fiery red grass under that big tree, once again could not help but exclaim. The grass looked like jumping flames. This was one of the main ingredients for refining the flame Dan. Chen Shang didn't expect this herb garden to be so much better than the one he found before. It actually had so many high-grade spirit herbs. There is no one here, quickly grab everything. Long Shui hastily said. At this moment, she was also being greedy. She could not wait to turn into a little rabbit and go around digging all of it up. But she also had a sense of proportion. She knew she had to stand guard for Chen Shang. If he could steal all of these precious spirit herbs, there would definitely be a large share for her. Chen Shang entered the herb garden. First he chose to pick up those precious herbs up. He dug them up right from their roots, and then stored it all in his storage magic equipment. He wanted to move all of them over to the extreme Dan King courtyard. He first dug up the 9 sun flame tree, on top of which there were 2 9 sun flames fruits. This tree was rather big, about the height of 3 people, but not very thick, with very firm leaves and roots, and as such there was no need to be afraid of damage when transplanting it. He quickly dug the tree out, and then went for the 5-color lotus, fire spirit grass, and only after digging all of them up, did he finally go for the metal spirit tree and the 1,000 vein tree. Fortunately, when he came here, he brought along many storage equipment, otherwise he simply could not take them all. At this time, he had no choice but to ask Long Shui, this greedy little dragoness, to help him out in digging up these herbs. There was simply too many herbs that could be used for refining true elemental Dan, white jade Dan or various other sorts of Dans. And countless commonly used highly matured spirit herbs, some of which were later planted by the Lu family. Long Shui's movements were very nimble. She was rather excited. Her little mouth didn't stop moving. She dug up herbs and ate them as she wished. A few times she didn't even peel the herbs before swallowing it whole. For example, she dug out a large ginseng and swallowed it along with the mud. Greedy little dragoness, how about turning into a demon beast with a bigger mouth? That way you can eat more and even quicker. Chen Shang laughed and said. If it was not for this place being under the watch of the Lu family, he would have already asked out those 2 beauties in the ring to help him pick these spirit herbs. That would be rather ugly. Long Shui said while chewing a spirit grass, with its roots sticking out. Just look at yourself, your current appearance is already very ugly. Chen Shang glanced at what remained of the herb garden. He had no clue how long it would take to harvest the entire garden, so he could only speed up and hope no one came. After picking countless spirit herbs, Chen Shang had lost all track of time. Long Shui, on one side was eating, while on the other she dug out spirit herbs. She herself wasn't clear how many herbs she ate. She also digested them quickly, she simply wasn't aware of what a bulging stomach from overeating was. Chen Shang saw the way she was eating, he got very worried about her belly being blown up. If not for Long Shui paying attention to all movements around them, he might not have been able to harvest these spirit herbs so quickly without any worry. I've finally picked everything. Long Shui handed over many storage pouches to Chen Shang, all completely filled to the brim with spirit herbs. Looking at the now barren herb garden, which had been originally lush with various plants and trees, now covered in various pits, Chen Shang smiled and said, "Didn't you leave a little bit for yourself as snacks?" Long Shui naughtily smiled and said, "Of course I have, but I'm not going to tell you how much I took." As Chen Shang squeezed her face, she returned back to his arm. Before speaking, "Chen Shang, in the center of this herb garden, there is a stone buried under the ground. Although the stone is not any rare ore, but it is cut very neatly, it should be a monument." So long as no one arrived, Chen Shang was fearless of anything. He arrived at the center, and soon dug up that stone. It was indeed a monument carved out from stone, and had Dan King Li Tianjin carved on it in large bold characters. Chapter 219, World First Mysterious Realm. Chapter 219 World First Mysterious Realm. Elder Dan and that mysterious Dean of Danxiang Taoyuan were the strongest alchemists in the entire Chenwu mainland. Since Elder Dan was still a step away from Dan King until now, Chen Shang had never heard of someone being a real Dan King. It turned out to be him. Su Meiyao exclaimed with surprise. "Who?" Chen Shang hastily asked. "He is indeed a Dan King, however he is long dead, because he held a clue about a very sought-after mysterious realm. That mysterious realm is very famous in the mortal world, known as a world-first treasure trove, also known as the world's first mysterious realm. Inside it, there are countless rare and precious spirit herbs, spirit beasts, exotic and wonderful treasures and so on. That's why he was hunted down by many fearsome martial artists across the mortal worlds." Su Meiyao replied. Bai Yu continued, "This guy entered this mysterious realm at very young age, and obtained many things from there. After many years, he became a Dan King. However, he revealed this confidential secret to his son, who was rather a greedy person through and through. So, this confidential secret was revealed and he joined with some powerful martial artists to try and force his father to reveal the location of the world's first mysterious realm." Su Meiyao sighed. Li Tianjin was a very strong martial artist, however, being hunted down by various major martial artists made his situation very dangerous. Later, nothing had been heard about him for an extremely long time, and according to his son, he was already dead. Chen Shang looked at that monument, asked, "When did this happen?" "About 10,000 years ago. It appears he was still alive, and even went to the heavenly realm. At that time, he was already praised as the world's #1 martial artist, to be precise, the strongest under the heavenly realm." Su Meiyao was somewhat excited at this point. He left these herb gardens, maybe he also left the clue to the entrance of the world's first mysterious realm somewhere. Also, the refiner's scroll you got maybe came from his hands as well. That refiner's scroll was in an inheritance bead, and was very esoteric. Even Lu Menger was not able to completely understand it. Chen Shang looked at the monument, and poured his divine sense into it. However, it was blocked out by a mysterious power. "There is something inside the monument," Long Shui suddenly said. Under the vigorous slap of Chen Zhang's palm, cracks appeared on the monument. He once again slapped down on it, and as the monument broke into pieces, a black iron box fell down. Chen Shang, Su Meiyao and Bai Yu were all extremely excited, because inside this black iron box, there could very well be a clue to the world's first mysterious realm. Chen Shang picked up that hand-sized small iron box and carefully looked all around it. He found a small hole on top of the box, just large enough for a key to be inserted. He quickly used the same key that opened the herb garden, and just like before, a beast's skin was present inside. As he spread it out, he saw a very detailed map inside. Chen Shang carefully looked at the map, and his heartbeat became faster and faster. He was absolutely sure that this should be the map pointing at the entrance of the first mysterious realm. However, in order to enter the mysterious, he needed to wait a long time, because this mysterious realm required a long interval of time to open. When the darkness engulfed the light, on the Sun Moon Island, the entrance to the mysterious realm will open. Chen Shang repeated these words over and over again, trying to understand it. "What does that mean?" "Solar eclipse," Su Meiyao and Bai Yu said in chorus. TLN, Tian Go Shiri solar eclipse. The literal meaning is, the heavenly dog eats the sun, and Chinese people really used to believe at one time that this was what caused eclipses. Chen Shang immediately understood, when? This Sun-Moon Island seems to be in our mortal martial world. I don't know, but it's going to be soon. Its signs will appear a year before it. By then, rushing to the Sun-Moon Island would not be too late. Bai Yu replied. Chen Shang just finished looking through the map when he heard the stone door opening. It came from the entrance of the another passage of the herb garden. It was the passage the Lu family had created on their own. Get out of here quickly. Long Shui hastily shouted. Chen Shang immediately flashed into the iron gate. At that time the iron gate automatically closed by itself, but also released an explosive sound and tremor. He just took a few steps, before he heard a furious roar coming from the herb garden. The entire Herb King mountain shook, followed by a furious earth-shaking roar. Chen Shang quickly left the cave. It was actually noon. He and Long Shui had unwittingly stayed for so long in the herb garden. 5th stage true martial realm from left and right are coming towards you from that side. Also one person in the extreme state. Long Shui had not yet completed her sentence before Chen Shang saw few people from all 4 directions rushing over. Meanwhile from the sky, there was a suffocating mighty pressure bearing down upon him. Good bizarre and evil true chi. Chen Shang speculated that this extreme state martial artist should be the strongest among the Lu family. Surrounded by these many people, it would be truly difficult for him to escape. He immediately cast the water escape from the black tortoise divine exercise. Under his foot, a pool of water suddenly emerged. Before those people arrived, Chen Shang was already completely submerged into that pool. Though a water passage under the ground, he escaped into a nearby river. However, this completely drained him of his black tortoise true chi. Chen Shang wore a black robe with a hood covering him completely. Those people weren't able to see his appearance. However, from the display of the water escape, it shouldn't be long before they figure out who he was. After all, Chen Shang had once cast the same technique before. After returning to the extreme Dan King courtyard, Chen Shang first expanded his small courtyard and renovated it into a huge herb garden. Afterwards, he planted those various spirit trees and some yet to fully mature spirit grass and spirit flowers from the Herb King mountain. This whole process took an entire day. 10 metal spirit trees, 10,000 vein trees, 3 azure profound trees, a 9 sun flames tree, some fire spirit grass under the 9 sun flames tree, and on the other side, there was the 5-color lotus. These were only the relatively more valuable herbs. Only the lotus seed of the 5-color lotus was mainly used for alchemy. All the lotus seeds in the 5-color lotus were usable, but Chen Shang still didn't have all the ingredients for the 5 elements true elemental Dan yet, which was why he plucked all the lotus seeds for planting. He wanted even more 5-color lotuses. Chen Shang now diluted all the golden dragon saliva he had congealed with water, and uniformly irrigated all the rare and precious herbs in the herb garden. Although it was diluted, the growth of these herbs was not in any way slow. After all of this was finished, Chen Shang swallowed down 5 building foundation dans, and began cultivating. Although he had many building foundation dans, he could not eat them in succession for cultivation, otherwise his foundation would become unstable. Whenever he broke through, he would go out to temper himself for a period of time, or immerse himself in alchemy. By familiarizing himself with utilization of the new state of true chi, he could solidify the realm in order to avoid an unstable foundation. Chen Shang knew a lot of things must be going on outside, however, he didn't want to inquire about the situation. Even if someone came knocking on the door, he still didn't open it. He was completely immersed either in cultivation or irrigating those spirit herbs. At this time, he had already entered the 3rd level of the true martial realm. A total of 150 true element grains were glistening with aura. This large amount of true chi made him anxious to create some trouble. He could not wait to immediately go out and take a high-rank mission to try out his strength. However, he still managed to hold himself back. Why? This was because he wanted to cultivate Shinto. The spirit in his consciousness was already in the infant state, and he needed to rapidly grow his infant soul, before Long Shui would teach him the cultivation for Shinto, allowing his strength to exponentially increase. There was only one method to make the infant soul quickly grow up, and that was the elemental spirit Dan. Chen Shang already had enough raising soul grass and divine spirit grass on hand. He now had a total of 100 sets of materials for the elemental spirit Dan, all of which he had originally acquired in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. Chapter 220, Elemental Spirit Dan. Chapter 220 Elemental Spirit Dan. The Elemental Spirit Dan was a low-grade profound level Dan. Its rarity and grandeur could not be compared with the building foundation Dans. Besides, its herbs were even more hard to find than the building foundation Dan, not to mention its difficulty of refining was leagues above the other as well. The difficulty of refining the building foundation Dan was around the same as high-grade spirit level Dans. It was mainly because the herbs required were rare and precious compared with its counterparts that it was included in the low-grade profound level Dans. However, not only were the ingredients for the elemental spirit Dans even rarer, its refining difficulty was also tremendously high. A lot of raising soul grass and divine spirit flower had been nurtured by Chen Shang. Although they were all seedlings, he had the golden dragon saliva. Making these flowers and grass mature faster was not at all difficult. Inside the private room, Chen Shang processed those herbs according to Su Meiyao's instructions. The only part needed from the raising soul grass was a small part close to the root. Meanwhile, only a particular petal and root was needed from the divine spirit flower. All of the above needed to be processed very carefully. If there was even a little more cut off than required, it would result in chaotic spirit chi, which would lead the refinement to fail. The divine spirit flower and raising soul grass were the main ingredients. Besides them, there were many other auxiliary herbs, way over 30. All of these herbs were relatively common herbs, such as ginseng, spirit grass, monster cores and so on. However, the age requirements for these herbs were rather high, the lowest needed to be 3,000 years old. As such, these auxiliary herbs were also rather hard to find. However, it was nothing difficult for Chen Shang. He had long obtained the required auxiliary herbs from both the recent herb garden invasion and the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. After processing and arranging the auxiliary ingredients and the main ingredients uniformly, Chen Shang stored each set into a separate jade box. He finished as much as 10 sets before he took out the brilliant flame dragon furnace and began refining. Chen Shang already learned the whole process on how to refine the elemental spirit Dan from Su Meiyao. However, the fundamental nature of the elemental spirit Dan compared to the other Dans he had refined before were not the same, which was why he needed to get practical experiences and address the minute details. As these herbs were placed inside the brilliant flame dragon furnace, Chen Shang released the flames, instantly incinerating these herbs. At the start, the flames were too intense, which lead to a sudden combustion of these herbs, releasing a burst of tyrannical spirit cheese. These collided with each other inside the furnace, causing the brilliant flame dragon furnace to fiercely shake. Chen Shang immediately suppressed these tyrannical spirit cheese with his divine sense and gradually released them out. Once those spirit cheese left the brilliant flame dragon furnace, they dispersed and disappeared in between heaven and earth. Sigh, that's one set wasted. Chen Shang sighed. To instantly experience failure at the beginning was an unexpected blow. It was something he had not experienced for a long time. Since you have the heavenly sun fire spirit, your flames are very intense. Besides, this process compared to the one before are very different. These herbs are very easily incinerated. In fact, I already warned you about this. Su Meiyao reprimanded him without any scruple. Chen Shang nodded his head, and once again began refining. The second time, he slowly baked those herbs bit by bit, so that the spirit cheese were slowly released. At the same time, he used his divine sense to fuse those various kinds of herbal spirit cheese as they were released. It started. Chen Shang frowned. At this moment, his divine sense began to drain away. This was because the raising soul grass and the divine spirit flower both produced divine sense. As these divine sense were ownerless, they instinctively absorbed the strength of other divine senses. At the moment, they were absorbing Chen Zhang's divine sense. If the herbs absorbed too much divine sense, it would lead to alchemy failure. Too little would also have the same end result. For this entire process, a very accurate control was absolutely necessary. Chen Shang once again failed. He was worried about having too much of his divine sense getting absorbed, so he fused those herbal spirit cheese and herbal powders together too quickly to try and solidify the Dan in advance. As a result, the spirit chi absorbed too little of his divine sense, resulting in not enough strength. As such, during the solidification of the Dan, it was very loose before slowly scattering. Alchemy was precisely done in such a way. Only after failing again and again would the alchemist be successful in grasping the most crucial point. Even while refining the building foundation Dan, Chen Shang had failed many times. Not to mention the elemental spirit Dan, which was several times harder to refine than the building foundation Dan. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. Chen Shang had already failed 70 times. Still not enough, it's just 70 times, that's all. Keep going. Su Meiyao nodded her head with satisfaction. If Chen Xiang was successful in 40 to 50 tries, that would be too abnormal. Although Su Meiyao knew Chen Xiang had an extremely heaven-defying talent regarding alchemy, it should also have a limit. Now that she finally saw Chen Xiang failed so many times, she didn't know why, but her mood was very good. Seeing Su Meiyao being so happy, Chen Xiang happily smiled and said, "Sister Meiyao, let's bet that I would fail no more than 100 times before successfully refining this elemental spirit Dan." Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both inside the ring. Although there was no one else present, it was still the site of extreme martial sect. With many Nirvana realm martial artists somewhere around here, they were worried they would be found, hence they didn't dare to come out. After thinking for a while, Su Meiyao promised, "Okay. If you lose, you have to loudly shout, 'I'm an idiot,' 3 times in the extreme martial sect square, if I lose." Chen Xiang laughed and said, "If you lose, you've to kiss me on the lips. How about it?" Su Meiyao sank into deep thought. She pondered for a while. She knew the specific amount of divine sense that needed to be absorbed was a giant hurdle. Even after failing 70 times, Chen Xiang was still not able to control the right amount. Not to mention, during the solidification of the Dan in latter stages, the suppression of multitudes of ownerless spiritual power transformed from the divine sense would be extremely hard to fuse with the herbal powder. This checkpoint still needed many failures before success would occur, at least it was like that for her. If Su Meiyao lost, she had to kiss Chen Xiang on his lips. This stake was a bit larger compared to Chen Zhang's. After all, if she won, Chen Xiang only had to shout, "I'm an idiot," 3 times. Su Meiyao was purely bored, and that's why she was seeking something to stimulate her, seeking something for fun. How about this? If you lose, you have go and kiss Zhu Rong's cheeks, moreover, in front of Yun Xiaodao and Squinted Dragon. Su Meiyao said with a tender laugh. Thinking of this scene, she couldn't stop giggling. Just thinking of this made Chen Xiang feel nausea. Now he didn't have any confidence controlling the failure to under 100 tries. If he lost, that would be pretty miserable. However, if Chen Xiang won, he would be able to kiss Su Meiyao on lips. This temptation was extremely huge. This was precisely what gambling was. A loss was extremely miserable, while a win would bring extreme joy. Chen Xiang also deeply considered for a while, before he nodded his head. "Okay, but you have kissed me a bit longer, it can't be a superficial peck on the lips." "No problem." Su Meiyao tenderly laughed and said, "Are you sure you can win?" Chen Xiang laughed and said, "No, but thinking of kissing you is too large a temptation to pass. Such beauty, ever if I lose miserably I still have to try. Sister Meiyao, don't worry, I'm very experienced in kissing. At that time I'll teach you what to do. Although you've lived for very long, I'm sure you are definitely unexperienced." Su Meiyao didn't abhor Chen Xiang, on the contrary, she rather liked him. Chen Xiang was handsome enough, had an excellent talent, and if he became a powerful martial artist in the future, he was indeed a pretty good partner. Besides, her bare jade body was already seen by Chen Xiang, kissing him didn't amount to anything much in retrospect. However, she didn't know why, but she was a bit anticipating what would happen if she lost. After living for so long, she indeed had never kissed a man. "Sister Yuyu, how about you also join in the fun?" Thinking of kissing Bai Yuyu, Chen Xiang suddenly became even more excited. As opposed to Su Meiyao, Bai Yuyu, this iceberg beauty, stirred up an even more intense desire to conquer her. Chapter 221, Can't Lose.